Okay. Hey, there's no. Hold on one second. That was. Ignore that last comment.
All right, looks like we are all ready to rock and roll. What is today? Wednesday, October 4th. Keep wanting to make this Thursday, but it's not working.
If it was that easy, that'd be cool.
Right? All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over to Jennifer and Mark. You guys take over and we'll watch and learn.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Excuse me. This is the proposed budget summary that was emailed out a little while ago with the changes that happened yesterday, moving some of the policy level requests over into the approved requests. As of right now, the proposed budget is $70,986,973. We have moved over into the approved PLRs, $228,766. There's still in the general fund $2,546,184 in expenditure PLRs, and then in revenue $652,867. And we're starting off today with the sheriff's office, and they have $747,877 approximately in outstanding PLRs that they want to explain today. So I'll hand it over to the sheriff's office.
Hello, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Nice. I got all the technology figured out.
Who helped you?
Just so you know, you can see around the room. We've got a gag ball here, just so you're aware. All right. How would you like to attack this? Would you like to talk about things in order of importance to us, or just go through the paragraph that she has there? What's your preference, commissioners?
You know, it might be fun to hear what's the important things first. I don't know if that's fun or not, but the important things to you first. And that way we can prioritize them in our minds as well.
Okay, you bet. We would put at the top of the list the first thing that is on the list there, which is the 2 FTE sheriff's positions, sheriff deputy positions. We talked to the commission last year pretty extensively about how important it was for us to have a process to move us to the industry standard of getting close to one deputy per 1,000 population. And we mentioned last year that we wanted to do that in a slow, gradual way, One, so that it's more manageable for the budget of the county, and two, so it's more manageable for us in a training process of getting people hired on and getting them through the academy. So last year we did get 2 positions, which we were greatly appreciative of. And we're getting down to the point where we're almost hiring our last 3 positions, hopefully, in the next few months in patrol. And we would like to see another 2 positions and the other patrol vehicles and things that go along with hiring those positions. So that's kind of the most important thing at the top of our list. Any questions on that?
So the 98.9 that's for 1, right? That's not the total for 2, or is that
That's
for 1?
correct. Nope, that is per sheriff's deputy.
Is that fully loaded?
Yes.
So you wouldn't take in any laterals or anything like that?
Well, we generally take them as they come, Commissioner. We're never quite sure if we're going to be only getting entry levels or only getting laterals. In a perfect world, we like to have a good mix of both. It's nice to get some experienced people coming in here because we put them straight into FTO and they go right out into training. However, it's always good to get a good mix of new young folks coming through that we can put through the academy and start out fresh as well. So I'm never quite sure. That's just kind of a approximation of what those positions would be.
And where would they be? Would they be one north and one south, or would you just decide where to put them after you got them?
Well, the big issue that we really have a lot of the time is in our relief factor, meaning the number of people who are out on vacation, out sick, out to training, out working and training for special units, all of those things. And so the important part of adding to the FTEs, especially with the expanded workload and responsibilities that our deputy has, is to make sure that when those folks are off for those other reasons, we still have a full complement of folks working patrol and out there handling those calls for service.
So with the 2 deputies, you need 2 vehicles with the upfits.
Yes, ma'am.
The laptops, and then office furniture?
Yeah, so that's past the semicolon, so we don't need the office furniture for the new deputies. That's a different topic, but.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that account, those 2 deputies and the needed vehicles that they would have would account for a little over 300,000 of the $747,000 ask.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, commissioners, any further questions on the deputies? All right, take us on to the next part.
You betcha. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was I think it's at the end of the paragraph there. It's the jail control board and lock inspections. That's a cost for a yearly inspection by the company that comes in and does reviews all the locks, does the maintenance on them, make sure that the control board is working and doing all of those kind of things. So it's a little bit weird how we're doing it. I'm kind of ambivalent about it. I've talked to Mark about it. You know, we signed the contract for it and the contract lives in IT, but it kind of seems like it's a facilities thing because we're cops. We don't know anything about locks or doors or any of those kind of things. We just want the doors to open when we push the button. So regardless, if we want the cost to live in the sheriff's office budget, I don't really care, but I do think that that's an amount of money that we need to pay each year to ensure that those doors work appropriately. That's an officer safety issue. It's a medical issue in our facility if those doors aren't working every time that we push the button. So I'd really like to make sure that we get that in there.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, is this a new contract that you'd be entering into, or a current contract that we have? And if we do currently have it, Jennifer, where are we paying for it from?
If we do have it, which I don't believe that we do, but if we do, it would be paid out of the sheriff's office budget. We have had some back and forth, but about, you know, who's paying for what, and we had a meeting at the beginning of this year, I believe it was, where we decided things like this would be paid for out of the sheriff's budget if they're above and beyond what facilities normally does for, you know, other types of buildings. I mean, it's a cost to operate the sheriff's office, even though it may not be a function that they may not, you know, work on the doors, right? It would still be paid out of their budget because it's a cost that would be above and beyond what a normal building would have. We're normally not trying to lock our people inside, right? Or something like that. And sorry, that's probably not really that.
We want to keep certain people locked in certain places for certain amounts of time. But other people not locked in certain places all of the time.
And that's why those doors got to work.
And
So we can manage that.
Mark, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, our facility staff and our IT staff really go and try and help and troubleshoot issues that come up over in our jail. But this is definitely an operational cost associated with the jail. You know, when we look to see what is the total cost of operating a jail, I think these are the types of things that we need to keep within that budget. So if my recommendation would be that absolutely this should be paid for out of the sheriff's office budget within the jail section.
I guess not so much. I agree with that rationale. I guess my question is more to the point, like, this is a new expenditure. This isn't something we're already paying for out of a different line item in the budget or out of a different department in the budget. This would be a new addition.
Hang on. Commissioner, let me ask my jail chief. He's sitting right here. So what's the history on that, chief?
The county's been paying this for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
So it's an existing contract with CTG to manage the locks in the jail.
Has that been coming out of our budget? Because I don't recall that.
Well, yes. I think we've been paying it out of our budget.
Isn't that the one, Travis, that we had the meeting about earlier this year?
Yes.
Yes, it is, but I didn't remember it actually being a line item in our budget. I thought that it was being covered somehow, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
It wasn't a line item. I don't believe it was a line item. I think you guys did transfers.
Yeah,
Paid for it.
I don't know if you heard Chief answer or not, but he says he believes that it was a transfer in on previous years to pay for that rather than just being in there.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, that puts it in a different light, right? So I mean, this is a contract that we currently have that we have to honor. So that to me is different than if we were adding this service and going from that point. So that's what I was hoping to get at. So I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I had remembered that we had done this before where we were checking those because we had so many issues with it. Then we paid money to upgrade it and try to fix it, but we still had to maintain it. And it was under my understanding that we had already covered that. I don't know if it's a contract that we enter into yearly or if it's something that 3-year contract. If it's not a 3-year contract, and something that has to come before the board for another signature, then I would call that maintenance.
I believe it's an annual contract, Commissioner.
Yeah, it feels like maintenance to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me as well.
IT has the contract.
Yeah, Chief Hansen said that if the IT actually has the current contract, if anybody needs it.
Okay, so we need to find out though if we have paid for it through IT or through the sheriff's office. I remember us doing it originally through the sheriff's office, but things change as time goes on. Can you look up, Jennifer, and see if we've been paying for it through IT?
We definitely have not been paying for it out of IT.
Okay, then
Or facilities, correct?
yeah. So then then like I said, I think it's maintenance, and you need to get us a new contract before, so we can just continue on with the cost of living aspect added to it.
I guess my confusion here is, isn't that already a part of the sheriff's office operating budget for the jail?
No, it has not been part of our budget in previous years. It's
Well,
been,
I don't know that that's accurate, Travis. I don't mean any disrespect, but if it's been being paid out of it, it is part of the budget. We don't line item that you get, paper. We don't line item that you get other things. It's part of your cost of doing business. What would be?
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry. I have some information on this particular item. So last year I thought that it was budgeted under REIT, and so we had removed it out of maintenance level for the 2023 budget.
And we put it into REIT?
I thought that it was part of REIT and it was not.
So we actually took it out of their budget, even though it had been in their budget. So we need to put it back in their budget with the amount difference that it's increased over the year.
I don't remember if it was in there prior to 2023, but it did not get put into 2023 for sure.
Well, then how is it paid?
I think we may have done an amendment. I can go back and look.
Okay. Well, if not, let's put it in the budget. If it's not already in there and expected that it's in there, then let's put it in to its right place and call it maintenance. We already know we want to spend it. I don't think this is something we actually want to choose on. I think it's actually cost of doing business, personally.
Absolutely, and the result of this service, the board has recently approved. They come in and they look at the cameras as well as the locks. So they came in and recommended that they can't find parts for our old cameras, and so the board approved a project to replace all of the cameras with new cameras. And we currently have a proposal from the same company to replace the locks and actually some of the slides on some of our doors in the jail, I believe. So that's another contractor or project that may be coming before the board. Right now, we were just working with facilities, and I wanted facilities to talk to the contractor to see if the parts that we have on hand would be usable to push that project out a little bit, as opposed to having to do it right now.
okay, moving on to the next one.
Yep.
Okay, great. So the other one that we would probably put in the kind of top rung of requests is, you'll see in there that we have a high-speed video capable computer and detective computer upgrades. The issue that we're having right now is that, as you all know, we acquired the GTAC video camera system that works both in our cars and our body cams. And the result of that downstream, obviously, is that we get quite a significant number of public disclosure requests. Those have to be processed in-house by somebody to do all the redactions and the review of the video and all those, which requires a computer which is far, far more capable than the one that we currently have. And the public disclosure requests obviously are a high liability issue for both the sheriff's office and the county. And we're having a hard time using antiquated equipment to keep up with modern problems. And so it's pretty high on our priority list that we have the ability to get Melissa, who does our video redaction, much better dual computer system to be able to redact those videos and do that work.
So the video equipment that we just purchased, right? Do we have to use a computer from them, or?
No. We just need one that has the, I'm not a computer guy, but it has all the internal horsepower to actually get into the system and do the redaction and run the software that it takes to do a lot of video over and over.
And have you asked IT?
Yes, we have definitely talked to IT. A lot of these specialty computer systems that are required for us, like the laptops for the cars and that computer system, IT is leaving to us to manage and purchase, and we confer with them about system requirements and making sure that things actually work within their infrastructure that they've developed.
So I want to apologize. Usually I'm a little more up, but right now I'm using a different car, so my booklet for my budget is not around for me to look at. With that being said, in the past we've had line items and areas in there for training. We've had areas in there for computers that are automatically going over from year to year to year. And I want to make sure that we're talking about things that are up and above what we already have in as maintenance for our general operations. And then the question becomes, what do we have that can drop off that was taken care of the year before that isn't there this year? And so my apologies, I don't have the book today to look at that. So.
Yep, no problem. I definitely understand that, Commissioner. We do the same thing on our side of the house. As a matter of fact, Jen can probably tell you we got a hold of her and dropped off probably about $190,000 worth of stuff, which were one-time purchases for last year that we overlooked, and actually asked to have those backed out because it was above and beyond what we would need for this year. And so I appreciate you're doing that process. We're doing the same thing. So.
Yeah, but that helps. So we had 190,000 of one-time expense that because I don't have it, so I'm asking you again. One-time expense that was included in last year's budget. So if we were looking at status quo, we would have that much to work with as a one-time.
It just brought down our total PLR request a little bit. Is what it is. Would you like me to continue, or are there more questions on the computers?
Oh, yep, go for it.
Okay, probably the next thing at the top of our list is you'll see that we asked for a significant amount more in the training budget. The reality is that we spend a lot of money on training for a lot of different things, and we kind of rob from Peter to pay Paul, and it doesn't reflect what our actual training costs are. We have so many things that are high liability that require training within our operations that, quite frankly, training is just mandatory, and it costs us quite a bit of money. I mean, we have everything from, the less lethal instructors, which involves pepper ball and noise flash diversionary devices and 40 millimeters and less lethal shotguns. We've got people that we're training to be FTOs who are training our new folks. Defensive tactics instructors, which are high liability and requires them to spend time up at the academy and away from here. Our SWAT folks, hostage negotiators, our firearms folks. We've just got a laundry list of instructor training requirements that we have to pay for throughout the year. The number that we put in there more accurately reflects what the department has to spend sending people to instructor courses and contending with those high liability issues.
Do you, in the past, your bookkeeper kept a 3-year running, and I very much appreciated that. Is that any possibility that you could have the person in charge of your finance put together a running 3-year on that line?
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly do that for any lines in the budget. I think the challenge would be is going back and finding out where, we would pay for the registration for training out of the training line, but we would pay for the hotel out of the travel line, and sometimes it's the travel line out of admin rather than the patrol division, and parsing out where we're pulling all that from and what the actual average would take a lot of man hours. I think what we tried to do to reflect in this number was say, for the total cost of sending people out for all the instructor trainings and the conferences and those kind of things, that this is what it actually costs to run run operations. I threw conferences in there mainly because a lot of our instructor certifications come from the conferences rather than the training themselves. So our firearms folks, for example, would go to a firearms conference where we're paying for the conference and the hotel and all those things. But wrapped up in that conference would be their instructor certification for firearms. It would be their armor certification for a couple different weapon systems that they use, those kind of things. Whereas if we paid for those separately, they would end up costing a lot more money in a separate cost. And so it's hard to parse out every dollar in there, but that was our best approximation.
And I appreciate that, but my problem is it's hard for the request line, the PLR line, without information like that. That's my problem. It isn't that I don't believe you, it's just how do I do that? So I'll have to figure it out. I'll look over some lines myself later, but unless they just make some actions today, but that's up to the other commissioners.
Yeah, no problem. And my finance manager, Rochelle, is over here taking notes furiously. So I'm sure that she'll see what she can do as far as helping on that front. However, she is going on a cruise next week, so there may be a little bit of a lag, you know.
Well, I know you guys have to do a lot of additional training every time feels like every time the legislature goes in because they change what you can or can't do. So is that part of that training, or is that a different? Is that training?
Well,
you have the new mandate for the patrol tactics?
Yes, I think the answer is generally yes. We do have legislature mandated training that is now being thrown onto the pile. I mean, obviously, all the less lethal training is pretty critical now with the way that the laws changed and the use of force. But they also did mandate quite a bit of specific training where, so our patrol tactics training, which is now required for all personnel, requires that 25% of your commission personnel be trained up to the instructor level, while the other 75% are trained at the user level. And there's different periods of time that that the training is required. I think it's 3 and 5 days or something like that for each of the certifications. And so we have some of those issues, and there are other mandatory trainings that come down pretty much every year.
Lovely, right?
Yep. Unfunded mandates. Gotta love them. I know you guys know all about that.
So Travis, again, for me, I'm looking at this, trying to find ways to make some of these things happen. But the problem that I'm running into is I don't know what you already have, what you've been doing for training, what's absolutely necessary. And this, you're talking about an ongoing cost if we put this in instead of one time, and you're talking about 1.3 FTE sheriff deputy.
Yep. That's for sure. But unfortunately, we have to do the training, and you know, the in prior years, like I said, we've been taking some travel out of the jail budget or out of the admin budget, and you know, per diem is coming from wherever we can scrape it together from, and it just doesn't accurately reflect what it takes to run operations for the corrections and the patrol for all of the different certifications and training that they have to have. You know, I'd like to say that we've got a real that we could go back and paint a real clear picture, but just because of the way the bottom line budget works and how we have to pull it from different lines in order to kind of scab it together, that's just the unfortunate reality of it. Like I said, we will do what we can to try and paint a better picture for you, because I certainly respect that position. All right, moving on. So we've got in there training new deputies. That's in there at 59,523. Really, that's just a reflection of what we have as a cost for the number of people that leave and the number of people that have to go to the academy, as far as our cost for the academy and an assumption of a certain number of people leaving and having to be retrained.
What did we pay for the into that line last year?
I'm not sure. I'll let Michelle see if she can find it really quick. What's that?
I have the number if you want it. It's for 2022. And this is under CJTC 22,049.
What did we budget for 23?
We budgeted in 23 13,000. But this is only, as Travis mentioned, the travel, or I'm sorry, the tuition portion of that, not the travel portion of that. So the total PLR portion of that is $44,523. And then there's an additional 15,000 under travel. And under travel, in 2022, there was 12,191 expended. But in 2023, under travel through June, there's 22,648 expended so far.
Yeah. But now what you're asking for is not a total number of 60,000, but an addition of 60,000, right? Or are you asking for a total number of 60,000?
It's in here as an additional 60,000. Does that sound right, Jason? Is that the amount that we?
Which one are you looking at?
Sorry about that, Commissioner. Let me confirm.
That's okay.
Oh no, I was looking at this one.
Thank you, Jennifer, by the way. That is what
7 times however many.
Yeah, that's times 9.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's 45 times 9.
Because 9 deputies will have to go, so it's 49.47 times 9.
Oh, there we go. So it's for the academy cost, it was $4,900 and some. So let's say $5,000, and we had 9 positions. So we were looking at 45,000 right there, plus the other incidental costs that go along with getting those people up to the academy and doing that work.
So then we're not looking at an additional 60. We're looking at that's what's needed in the line. So if that's the case, then we need to talk about an increase of where our base is now to get it up to 60,000. And if that's the case, I would consider that difference, in my opinion, as maintenance.
I'm seeing heads nodding here, so I think that's actually what we meant.
Oh,
Except
you got one head saying no, that's Jennifer.
and she may know more than all of us.
I'm showing that the total PLR is 59,523. The 44,523 is the CJTC cost of 4,947 times 9 deputies.
Yeah.
And then the 15,000 for their travel expenditures.
Yeah.
So that would be in addition to what is already budgeted, unless there is not any need for any other budgeting. So there's 13,000 in maintenance right now under CJTC, and there is 10,000 in travel.
Sorry about that. I don't think so. I think from seeing the heads over here and doing the quick math, I think 60 is the right number for the total, not in addition to. So.
Okay.
So basically, remove the, would you say the 10 and the 15?
10 and 13, so it would be removing 23.
And then if the other commissioners agreed that that's what's needed this year, which we know it is, we know we have a lot of the training that's going to have to be done this year because of personnel things that are happening. So the actual maintenance increase would be
about 47.
To bring it up to the 60.
Yeah, so if we did a $40,000 increase as maintenance, that would get them the money that they need to fully staff and train. And again, I think that's maintenance. I'd like to know what the other commissioners think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, the other, thank you, Commissioners. The other large one that we have here is detective investigation online report software. As you know, and as we've all experienced, everything is going to computer annual subscriptions nowadays. You're no longer just buying a computer software program and using it for a few years with updates. You have to have annual leases, and we've got a number of investigative tools that our detectives use that they have to pay for annual subscriptions for. And you know, it used to be that everything was analog. You didn't really have to worry about that. But nowadays, with everybody's cell phones and computers, and you know, pinging all the software on investigations and doing all the other things, there's just a lot of costs in those leases nowadays. And so our detective unit says that accurately reflects the lease costs for the software that they've been using, that we've been kind of cobbling ways to pay for.
Okay, so if we're paying for that, and we've been paying for that, in my opinion, what I need from you is to show the cost increase, and that cost increase will go over to maintenance. I don't know about separating things out line item wise when we don't do a line item budget.
What's that?
Those are
Oh,
requests.
I'm sorry. Detective Chief Trackerby is saying that those are actually new requests. I don't know what the software programs are. What are they? Do you know? You remember?
One of them's for video evidence, working with all kinds of different videos to analyze the video, security videos and stuff like that. And the other one's for cellular phone data and tracking on cell phones when you get information through search warrants and such. And then don't forget the online reporting.
Yeah. Did you hear all that? Or
Yes.
Okay, very good.
I did.
Yeah, and the other thing that was included in there, because we kind of lumped it in, but we talked about it before, was the when we brought it up earlier in our briefing, was the online reporting. That includes the software for the online reporting, which will, you know, greatly increase our ability for our deputies to stay out on patrol rather than coming into the office to handle a lot of those low-level calls. So
Which line is that?
that's in that same.
That's part of the 33,000.
Yes. Yeah, it's part of that increase. That's correct.
We've been briefed on that and talked on that. It sounded at the time that we were in agreement on that, but how much is that of the 33,000?
We were asked to bring that back during the budget briefings. And
Okay.
I believe that was 13,000. Oh, I'm sorry. That was 26,000 of it. And that 26,000 was over 2 years.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So it's 26,000 for a two-year lease agreement on that.
Yeah, Jennifer, if you could just keep note that, because I don't know that we're making decisions on these PLRs, leave it to the other commission, but that when that comes up in the future, if it does, that I'm in favor of that one.
Okay.
Yeah, as am I.
So the other software that the detectives were talking about was only another,
Yeah.
only another 7,000, which.
So there's two of us, but I want to hear from the third personally. Do we have consensus on that, or we want to talk about that more, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move that one over then.
So we're moving over the 26 or the full 33?
I think the full 33 if we're going to do it personally, but
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that there's an option to those because of the way that the investigations that they do now. The software, I guess it's not really software anymore, because to me software is like a floppy disk, but
That's old school.
right.
I'm even older. I had a cassette one.
Anyway, I don't see those as optional.
So commissioners, I know that we're getting close to the end of our time here. We do have a few other things on this list that we would have you consider I know that sometimes when we get down to the end of budget time, there's a little bit of money left here and there. And if that is the case, I would have you consider a few of these other things. In our briefing, we did talk about the need for the new chairs in our gym area because the ones we have are destroying the floor. And we've got some office chairs that we have to replace in our patrol division because they're falling apart. And
how much was that?
So the office furniture, all total was for the desks and the chairs upstairs was about 24,000 overall.
Okay, so that's the desks and the chairs, but we're talking about a chair issue. Can you break down for the future? You can get this to us later, the cost of the actual chairs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've got the sheets here. There's no that. The gymnasium are a rolling chair, kind of like a classroom chair, but they're just designed to be on linoleum and not destroy it. The office chairs and the replacement desks that we have that we requested are all from an office company, and those they're probably slightly more expensive than a chair from Walmart, but they also come with a warranty where they will fix them, repair, replace them over a period of years. So we went with that route on our quote.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, though, I'd appreciate for myself if you would break out the chairs that are needed to maintain the facility and send that over.
You bet. We've got, Michelle's taking notes on that. Appreciate that.
Who do we normally get our furniture from? Is it Amazon? Is it the office supply store in Olympia, or do we just shop for the best bargain?
Is that a colloquially we, like the entire county, or are you asking about us?
I was more directed at maybe Diane or someone that pays those bills.
I think the treasurer's office remodel just went through Creative Office.
That's where we got our quote from.
Do you mind if, because of time, Travis, you mind if I just jump around and ask you a few questions about some of the things you have?
Feel free. It's there's only a couple things left on that list anyway.
Yeah, just so I know what we're talking about. Here recently, we just did a thing for patrol car laptops, but I see 50K in there. What is that for?
So none of our patrol laptops for the vehicles actually run through IT. We have to purchase them through our budget. And so obviously they're out there in patrol cars getting bounced around and, down roads, and they just kind of get destroyed over time. So we have a replacement cycle that requires that a certain number of them are always being built up for replacements and to rotate through as we rotate vehicles. It's a cost of doing business nowadays.
Thank you. Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, would you look in the past few years to see what we just expended for computers for the vehicles and what that looks like? The other thing is can you explain I see the printer at 5K, POL camera, 13K.
Oh, pole camera. It's an investigative item. It's used for if we're having problems in neighborhoods or other things going on, we can mount a special kind of cameras so that we can get video evidence in problem areas. It's just a investigative tool that really helps our detectives for different types of investigations.
Okay. I'd actually like to talk about that one in the near future in a budget or in a regular briefing, if you don't mind, because I'm curious about that one. I may be very supportive. It sounds to me like you're talking about the type of thing that they have at QFC and stuff to capture things. Seems like a good idea. Officer wellness program.
So the officer wellness program, that price there was kind of for a full suite a la carte program to help our folks out by bringing in a specially trained licensed counselor who can help those folks. We actually got I talked to our lieutenant who was working on that program, and he actually said that we can do a much different program. The one that he was asking for is basically the Cadillac version. We do have the stolen moped version, which came in at about $3,300 a year, which definitely gives us more of a contract
Wait a minute, did I hear that right? Was that 3,300 a month or 3,300 a year?
3,300 for the whole year. It gives us, it gives our peer counselors access to those counselors. So rather than the counselor providing the service, they're providing service and expertise to our peer counselors, who are then providing that on to our deputies. So yeah, the other one was definitely the Cadillac plan, but we're looking at the other one right now.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So under the IT trackable in the sheriff's office, and this is under administration, there's no line under patrol for IT trackable equipment. The total expended in 22 was 34,744.
For what?
IT trackable equipment. So
Okay.
it's not broken down by the patrol laptops or anything like that. And then so far this year, 8,156, but I believe we kind of caught up a little bit, maybe in the last year. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't this year. It was the last year we did the upgrades. So this last one would have been the in between. What do we have in the budget this year, 2023, to do that stuff?
34,000.
And now I have a feeling that we're in the same situation here, where the actual expected cost is the 50 grand total.
That's correct.
So that'd be an increase of how much again, Jennifer? I should have written it.
16,000.
So I have nothing budgeted under IT trackable equipment because we kind of wipe out that line every year and redo it. So right now there's zero under maintenance, and the total ask is 123,000 under IT trackable, and that's broken down by the patrol car laptops at 50, the 2 new high-speed video capable computers and evidence, and that doesn't have an evidence and detective computer upgrade. So that's all kind of lumped together at 24,000.
Okay. My problem is I see those as new asks, but I see the other that we need to
Oh.
maintain something.
Sorry, I do have 48,000 budgeted under IT.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we're actually already there for the patrol laptops. It's the other things we would be questioning.
So we're almost there for the patrol laptops.
So bring it up to 50 and maintenance on that one. What I'm thinking.
They have 48,000 in IT trackable equipment that is under the IT plan. So that will be, those are tracked by IT. So the additional ask is 75,000 for the patrol car laptops, and then the difference is the evidence and detective computer upgrades. And so if we bring it up to 50, we're only increasing it by $2,000.
But now I'm a little confused now. When you were saying that was the IT thing, does that cover the patrol car laptops, or is that covering something else?
That's over and above. So Ben sends me a listing of all the computers that are going to be replaced in each department, and I take $2,000 times those computers. So these are in addition to those computers. So there's on Ben's listing, he has 24 computers to be replaced in the sheriff's office, not including the laptops in the cars.
Okay, so those 24 do not include the laptops in the car, which are significantly more than 2,000 each. We just bought them and they were a lot more. But I'd kind of like to see a breakdown of what's actually needed for this year. I don't know that 50,000 is what's needed as much as hoped for. Undersheriff, if you wouldn't mind, could you look into that a little bit and see what's absolutely needed for this year? Because under that assumption, I know there's a few we're going to have to replace. I'd kind of like to know what it is for absolute necessity compared to one.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Those laptop computers for the cars are about $2,500 a piece, just for reference. And I think the problem that we have is that we need to get ahead, buy some computers. We've had a bunch of old ones on the shelves and some new ones that we put out there, but we've been slowly Eric Heilman has slowly been tearing those computers apart and using pieces and parts to cobble them together. And we're kind of getting to the point where we've got a number of them that we really need to replace, and then have a couple spares on the shelf for when they inevitably break. And I think that's what the ask was for, really, in that number.
Commissioners, I think we need to have something in that budget for it, that line somewhere.
Yeah,
But I
for
can
sure.
certainly have the chief circle back with you on what that exactly is buying for us and why it's necessary. I'm totally happy to do that.
Unless the commission have a number they're thinking. I saw Kevin unmuted.
Yeah, I don't have a specific number, but I think if we're going to start bringing those vehicle laptops under IT, then we might want to get those on a similar replacement schedule as we do generally for other computers that we're replacing. And so, yeah, I think maybe there might be some merit to having a little bit more discussion about that and what the rotation might be, and if it can be or needs to be accelerated, then we can have that conversation. But I think if we're going to treat it through IT, it should be treated like all the other computers that we have to deal with, just because of I think a workflow capacity issue with IT and being able to replace them, and just kind of keeping everything on the same, kind of projection there. So I'd be in for some more conversation on that.
We don't do that, right?
No, county IT doesn't do it.
Yeah, just to clarify, Commissioner, county IT does not purchase our laptops or do much of anything with them. We deal with all of that in-house.
Right. I thought you were saying that this was to bring those into IT. I thought that was the.
No. This is
okay.
Because we've got a number of them that have been beaten to death on patrol, and we're kind of cobbling together the last few that we have, and we're trying to get some new ones in there to replace some old beat up ones, and have a couple on the shelf to make sure that we've got some replacements. Because as you can imagine, those things kind of get beat to death out there in the patrol cars.
So they're 2,500 a piece. So that would give us what, 20?
Yeah, commissioners, I was tracking with Kevin for a minute there too, so I want to say I have to regroup, but so instead of 20, I think we should have a line for it at least in there. Would anybody be comfortable with setting up for 10? And if they need more, we'll have the conversation. If they need less, we need to track that this year.
I mean, I think I'd probably prefer just to get a little bit more information first, and then as opposed to kind of guessing on a number, as a preference.
Yeah, I can certainly have the chief circle back with what the current status is of our laptop fleet and what it is that we're trying to accomplish with that request.
If you wouldn't mind a little narrative to show what's absolutely needed versus what we'd like to have.
Can you?
Because I know why. I can see why.
Yeah. Can I clarify the definition of that as far as what is absolutely needed?
Yeah. You
include a couple on the shelf for immediate replacements when needed?
So what I'm talking about is ones that are in the cars right now that are already failing, already having issues. Once they start, you can keep trying to play catch up, but eventually they're going to go, or they wouldn't be having those issues now. So yes. I'd be looking at what's absolutely necessary right now, and then the idea that that'd be part of the thing is you'd like to have a few on the shelf, and that makes sense why.
Yes, sir. We can do that.
We've had talks, and there's always been an issue, and there's always been a wall between IT and the sheriff's department. And I mean no disrespect when I'm saying this, but we have a great thing going right now with our IT and our steering group and all the work that they're putting in. I guess this is more of an ask. Undersheriff, would you guys start to consider, please, coming together with our IT? Because we've over the years, you guys have paid people to work on stuff. We have an IT group that's a great IT group. We're not as siloed as we used to be. Please give that some consideration, because this way it could be built right into the plan for replacements and stuff, and we don't have to do that every year.
Well, let me say, Commissioner, that we've actually got a great relationship with TJ and his folks. We confer with them all the time. As a matter of fact, Jason is conferring with those folks all of the time. What it really came down to is that other than just buying a laptop, everything on those laptops is proprietary to just our line of work. And so both sides in mutual conversation and agreement decided that it's more efficient because we're dealing with those proprietary software systems and all the other things that go on there, that it's more cost efficient and effective for the county and for our operations to have those things done in-house. But as far as all the office computers and the software systems, we definitely confer with the IT steering committee. We talk to TJ when we're thinking about stuff and ask him if there's any issues that we need to think about as far as working it into the county program. And we work real close with them. So totally happy to continue that, but I don't think that we could be much happier or work much closer with them than we do now.
Yeah, and I'll kind of second that. Chief Drackley is probably, to his own pain and agony, a regular attendee of the IT steering committee meetings, and I think we've seen better integration with the sheriff's office over the past year in terms of utilizing IT for tech support. And so I think that's why I based my assumption that when we were having the conversation about the vehicle laptops, that we were trying to get them into the rotation as well. And so I think that's probably where my confusion came from on that one. So, but I mean, everything from integrating the sheriff's office website to IT support and so on and so forth. I think the partnership there is growing in the right direction.
Do you see an opportunity to talk to IT though about integrating their replacement program to also cover patrol cars?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I for sure. I mean, and I think we have an IT steering committee meeting next week, and the sheriff's office is open to that conversation. I'm certainly open to it. Kind of run the pros and cons on it, but like I said, I mean, that's why I thought that's what we were talking about. And so just good to get some clarity on that.
Well, Jason's sitting right here, and I'm sure he'll be at the meeting next week, so that'll definitely be a topic, and we'll be happy to talk about it. It hasn't been a reluctance on our part to do that integration. It's just simply been a discussion back and forth about what's the most efficient way to do it based on all the factors in total. But certainly, definitely can always look at those things again as circumstances they change, and Jason will talk to them next week to the whole committee.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, Undersheriff, and that's what I'm saying. I definitely see the difference now than 8 years ago with working together and trust with each other, and the idea that not everything has to be a battle and separate, that we work together as a team. So I see it clear as day. And matter of fact, please give my thanks to the rest of your staff for how I feel like we're able to treat each other.
Definitely. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we have nothing else unless you have any more questions.
Can you give us a roll up, Jennifer?
Of what was approved?
Yeah.
So I have 161,610, and that consists of the jail control board and lock inspection 68,610, and then training new deputies 60,000, which we already have. It was at 23,000 in there, so so 138,610 actually is the PLR's approved amount, and then 33,000 for the software. So those are the three things that I have as approved. The car laptops we'll talk about, and the FTEs we'll bring back with all the rest of the FTEs.
And the things that go with them. Okay, that's what I had too. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, you're welcome. And just on one last note on the IT trackable equipment, I know that it's a little bit confusing to have the IT items lumped in with other IT items. But when it goes through our coding system, it all is coded that way. So I don't know. I mean, I could probably look at simplifying that a little bit, but we're trying not to, create a separate bars line for every little item, especially with the new chart of accounts. So I just wanted to state that.
Jennifer, I feel you explained it well. I understood what you said and what you meant, so I don't know if it's needed to do any of those changes for me. I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I understood and appreciated it.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Sheriff's Office. Thank you,
All right.
Travis.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
So next on the list, we have the clerk's office. And for the clerk,
Jennifer, I'm sorry, before you dive in on this one. So I'm looking through my folder. I don't see a folder for the clerk's office. Are there attached PLRs?
I did not receive anything from the clerk's office.
Okay, great. Sorry, continue.
Okay, one problem I have with that is I'm going to ask you some questions that I'm going to need answers from, and if you don't have any of that, how am I supposed to get those answers?
A good question.
Are you asking the clerk or me?
I was asking myself.
Oh,
because that's a problem we have for
I
how
see
I do budgeting.
Well, and I see in the actual overview spreadsheet that there are a number of PLRs, but I don't have any attachments. So. Okay, well, see how it goes.
Yeah, so I tried to break it out by, so the revenue in the clerk's office, there's $368,204 that I've broken down over here in the notes as to what it is that I felt was maybe above and beyond what the normal amount of expected revenue is for their office. And then on the expenditures, the same thing. I have $172,640 that is listed out here, starting under the expenditure, the XP abbreviation.
So, where are you drawing the line on the revenue?
Right here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's all that I have on the clerk's office. Charles, did you want to address the PLRs for the policy level requests for your department or your office?
Yes, thank you. Hello, commissioners. Excuse me. I'm assuming we'll just start with overtime. The budget was set since 2022 and probably before about $2,000. We were about between 2022 and 2023, we were about 26,000 in overtime. So we asked for a little bit of an increase there and bring it from 2,000 up to 17. And then, as far as our office supplies, our IT trackables, they were extremely low. We're over budget on all of those. So what I was looking at doing was on the IT trackables to raise it just a little bit, and at least since this is my first year, that I could that if we do have money left over, then we can adjust it on the following year.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in if you don't mind, Charles. Just ask a few questions on this so that I understand it. So currently, right now, if I understood you correctly, you have a line item in your budget, which, like I said, I apologize, I don't have my book today. You have a line item in your budget for overtime currently at $2,000.
That's correct, Commissioner. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And in the past year or so, you've used 22,000 in overtime.
We've used this year in just overtime. Let me get up to it. I'm sorry. We were right at around 13,000 for a half a year. 13,703. Yes, sir.
But that was minus employees. You had a whole large time there where you had employees have to do a lot of extra work and overtime, correct?
That is correct. Currently, we're cross-training all of our staff, and it's requiring overtime for my lead, which is fairly significant. We don't believe at the end of this year that we'll have to, after in 2025, we should be okay, provided we don't have a turnover.
Right.
We had, as you know, Commissioner, we had a turnover pretty significant at the very beginning. We just lost our jury manager, so we have someone who's filling in, and we're going to be, and I have my lead, who's a paid lead, training 2 individuals for, the criminal to be criminal clerks.
Okay.
And so that's where we are right there.
Thank you. So Jennifer, on that line, that's under wages, and if it is not expended in wages, it comes back into unexpended budget authority.
It does, but I mean, they would have the ability to transfer up to 15,000. And
15.
I mean,
yeah.
They've already got 2,000 budgeted, which is more than a lot of the other offices have. A lot of them have nothing. Like the treasurer's office, I don't think has anything. And she had originally asked for 3,000, and I had said, if you need it, we can add it later. And she was agreeable to that. But yeah, that's my thought, is that if the staffing isn't there, then the overtime would be maybe needed at that point.
Yeah, and it would come out of the regular wages if that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's what I need to know on that line.
Okay. Okay. Then we go down to office supplies. We need to have a little bit of an increase in office supplies. We already, on our office supplies, we have 7,521 just on half a year. So we were looking to boost that. So at least I had an idea of what would be for the end of this year as well. Because a lot of this, because I guess I just didn't understand what our needs were within our office. I was looking at a little bit of a boost so that at least we would be able to. This year we purchased scanners. We purchased our microfiche. We didn't have a microfiche, so our staff couldn't do the research that was mandated, that was required of us. So we have that now. However, if anything breaks down, we want to have the ability to have it repaired.
So, and just to interject in there, the scanners and any type of equipment doesn't come out of office supplies. And I looked at what they had spent through June. They've spent $7,521 through June. So I increased the office supply budget to $15,000 for 2024 from $9,000.
So you already included some of this into the budget then.
Right.
Yeah.
An increase of so perhaps we can agree just to wipe that out because it's already included in maintenance and additional. How much did you say again?
I'm in agreement with that. I think 15,000 is fair.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Well done, of course.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. And then the same with the jury supply line. I increased that to 20,000 from 8,400. They've expended 9,672 through June. So I just plugged in 20. It looked like,
So she already did it for you, Charles. We can wipe that one out.
We can wipe that one out. Hey, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
I can go grab myself a cup of coffee
No.
now.
She's really good at what she does. I'm telling you, and she understands what we need and what we mean when we say maintenance.
When you say she's very good, you're not going to get an argument out of me. So
Yeah.
I'm going to behave. She is good. Thank you.
So can we just go through the rest of them and can you let us know which ones you've hit on? And then if there's any questions, we can come back to the other ones.
Okay.
That might make it a little bit quicker.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
so
you. Okay.
The IT trackable, there's $4,000 in there from the IT department's computer replacement plan. They have 2 computers, and so the 20,000. I would suggest wiping out the rest, the 16, because there's nothing planned to replace. The scanners got replaced this year already, so that seems above and beyond to me.
Okay, so they already have some money in there, from what I'm understanding, for whatever replacements would be normal. They already covered the scanner, so there's no need for any of that other than what's in the budget. Are you comfortable with getting rid of that, Charles?
I would. I think 4,000 is a little low. 16,000 or probably 20,000 may be a little high. I would probably like to see 10,000 go to that.
For what purpose, though? We got to have a purpose.
And that's what I'm going to tell you. In the event that we have to purchase other additional equipment,
At that point, you would come back to the board and ask for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Under those circumstances, I'm fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What else you got, Jennifer?
Under jury postage, so they've expended 9,420 through June. The budget for 23 is 20,000, and so
They're right on schedule.
just kept it at 20. I didn't see what the need would be to increase it that much.
You have something special coming up that you think there's a special need for an increase in postage above 20,000 total?
I'm going to say probably not. If we can bring it back to the board at a later time, then I'm good with that.
Okay.
And under travel, we have an additional $1,140. If you remember a few years back when Sharon was clerk, we increased the travel line to $1,860. So I didn't know what that was for.
Do you have any special things coming up, Charles? That
I skipped my last seminar. One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to continue our education, and by doing so, I would like to involve my chief in that process as well. So that's the reason that I increased it or proposed it.
So it's travel training. You're requesting an increase of 1140 for travel training.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been supportive of that all the way along for the other ones. If he wants to have his deputy, I'd call that maintenance. But I don't know. What do the other commissioners think?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Charles, how often do other employees go for training?
Well, it's never happened before for my chief. It's generally myself and Terry, because this time we were waiting for the budget. We didn't go this time, but Waco, as well as County Clerks Association, they have phenomenal educational opportunities for us. We could bring it back. What I may miss, she may pick up, that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think that we've ever. We like it when our team members, so to speak, go out and get training, because it's valuable information that they typically bring back. So
absolutely, Commissioner, absolutely.
So I'm good with that.
Okay. And then we have 2,500 for the machine maintenance. So I wasn't sure what that was for. We paid off the copier that was defaulted on the lease this year. And so I don't know if there's another lease still or.
I have another one down here, Jennifer, that's in our office. And the machine maintenance is about 300 a month. So, and that is totally current, and we're paying on that. And that's not behind, that's 100% current. So that's the reason that I set it up like that. If we go with on the machine maintenance, it's going to be a minimum. It's going to be a minimum of 400 a month, including capital business machines, which brings it to about 4,800, annually.
And what do we have so far, Jennifer, in the budget to handle that?
So we have 2,500 in the budget. So, I mean, if it's really going to be 4,800, I guess we could, plug in the 2,500. I just don't know if it's going to be that much.
Well, we can keep track of it for the next year. I want to go along with what they're thinking that's going to be personally. So I'd call that maintenance.
So you're saying an increase of 2,500 for the year? Is that what you're saying, Commissioner?
That's what I see, yeah.
So you're saying, Commissioner, you're saying to the 5,000?
Yes, but it's an increase of 2,500.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now we'll keep tracks on that though, Charles. If there's still another commissioner that hasn't weighed in yet, we would still want to keep track on it. You need to make sure you show it to us for the next year.
Absolutely. Okay. I'll keep you apprised as to any extraordinary expenses regarding our copiers, maintenance, etc.
I haven't agreed to that one yet, but I'd rather track it to see where we're at. We can always add more to it if needed. I just want to make sure that it is necessary.
Okay. So a couple clarifying questions, maybe. What's the $4,800 number again? Figure that was provided. Is that what you think it will?
I was looking at 400 a month times 12.
Okay. And then is that what you anticipate having to pay this year? And are you anticipating having to do a budget amendment to cover that, or what's the story for 23?
Yes, I'm expecting to do about 4,800 plus. Yes.
Okay.
I think you misunderstood the question. I think Commissioner Shitty was asking you, what are you expecting for 23? Did I understand that right?
I thought we were talking 24. I'm sorry.
Both.
I mean, so I'm trying to understand. We have $2,500 in that line currently, and so are you expecting to have to pay $4,800 this year on a line item that's $2,500, since you want to increase that for next year?
Yes, I don't think that will ever lower. I think it'll be 400 a month.
You think it will be, or that's what's in the lease agreement?
The lease agreement. Remember, we have our maintenance, which is capital business, and we pay for that. They come out here and service, etc. And then we also have our lease agreement, which is approximately 200. I think just for them it would be 230. I think last month was 238.
Could we maybe come back to this after we do a little bit more research? Maybe we can get copies of the lease, or I just feel like maybe I know it's not that big of a number, but
It's not, you're right. It's not that big of a number. And I'm not going to like sit here and split hairs over $2,500, out of a $175 million budget or whatever. But at the same time, it's like a fixed cost. So like we should know what we're supposed to be paying every month on our leases this year.
Again, commissioners, if I can come back if we exceed that 2,500, and if I can come back, then we will we can go with the 2,500, and we can see how much we're going to be over.
Or we could just put a pin in this for a couple days, and we could take a look at the lease and see what the fixed cost is.
Sure.
So that we know what the actuals are heading into next week or into 2024.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is something that we don't need to like take a wag. It's something that has a lease amount.
Right.
Okay, so we'll come back to the 2,500. And then the last item that we have under expenditures is 100,000 in Blake decision reimbursements. And so we also have this in the revenue as a reimbursement. So there's 100,000 in revenue, 100,000 in expense. But my understanding is that these reimbursements are now done through AOC, and so now we should not have any more AOC reimbursements going through the county. So I wasn't sure why this would be in the budget for next year.
That's not okay. That's not necessarily true. On the Blake reimbursements, anything that was prior to June 31 is reimbursed, is a check written from us and reimbursed by them. Anything that was after say July 1 on, they apply. I still have to load and download and tell them exactly what to refund, but then they put in an application and AOC sends them a check. But we still have extraordinary expenses that they're to reimburse us for.
Well, wouldn't those extraordinary expenses already be budgeted as salaries and benefits?
No, because those are things separate from. I mean, we're still paying our employees. That's not what I'm saying. But they are anything dealing with the Blake reimbursement is to be reimbursed by them, and that's everything from our criminal clerk inputting the information after court. That's me preparing and going through 10 steps to get it inputted into AOC. So it's not a matter of that I send the information to AOC and they write them a check. It doesn't work that way. We do everything from here.
Right, but those expenditures are already budgeted for your salary and benefits and your staff's salary and benefits, correct?
I didn't understand, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
I don't understand what extraordinary expenses there would be that would be billed to AOC besides salary and benefits that are already budgeted.
I think what we're trying to figure out is if there's extra expenses. I mean, is there overtime that they're putting in, or what are those other, what expenses exceed what we already pay for? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't go to the employee, it comes to the county. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but we have two things, Charles, we have two different things here. You have a revenue and you have an expenditure.
Right.
If you have something in the expenditure line, what are we expending outside of our normal business that would account for $100,000?
At this point, you're not.
Okay, that's what Jennifer was trying to say.
I didn't understand. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, do you have a number that will be expended out? Do we still have any checks that have to come through the county out to people that will be expended out of your department?
Probably around 50,000.
Okay, because the ones before a certain date still have to go through you for reimbursement.
Yes.
The ones after a certain date goes the, I understand that. Jennifer, does that make sense to you?
It does make sense, but I'm wondering if that is too high of a figure. I mean, I would expect at this point that most people that are going to be reimbursed from the Blake program should have been reimbursed. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. That's just a guess.
These are Blake's.
And I'm talking about prior to June 21st. That would be an actual show up as an actual expense through the county and not an expense through AOC, like for time and effort. Or in addition to.
Do you have a number that you'd be comfortable with, and are you basing it on anything other than a gut feeling?
I'm just basing it on a gut feeling, so I can look at that and kind of talk with our auditor's office, maybe talk with AOC and the clerk's office, and kind of get a better estimate of what's out there outstanding prior to June 21st.
Give you an example. We just sent over to Robin some of the old or the older Blakes that was right around I believe it was something around $12,000.
But that's this year. That's not next year. I mean, I would be surprised if there's anything next year that is still outstanding from prior to June 21st.
We could certainly look at that. Okay, we could go ahead and just assume that we're not getting anything in return, and that there is no expenditures, no revenue on the Blakes, and it's starting in 2024. And then if then I can come back to you all, after that, if it starts to exceed that. I do. What I'm trying to say is, I do the Blakes. I see. I see what's going out. So I mean, it is what it is. As far as we set this up last year, Jennifer, with the 100,000 expenditure and revenue, and that's fine. And then I had a check that came back for, I think we got reimbursed for $82,000 or something to that effect. And and now I'm with this, I'm up to that now. And once I finish the A19, then it's probably going to exceed that.
Yeah, and if we need to add in more into your budget for 2023, if you exceed that 100,000 that we have in 2023, we can look at doing that. For next year, yeah, maybe we should put in a very minimal amount and then relook at it again, or leave it at zero. I mean, I'm just not comfortable with 50 or 100,000.
What number are you comfortable with, Jennifer?
I mean, at this point, I don't know, maybe 10 for just kind of a placeholder, I guess. At this point, we can relook at it again.
I'm gonna throw Mark. I see you. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's are we talking about the amount of revenue that we want to put in terms of how much we're going to get reimbursed from AOC for the cost of Charles and his staff's time?
No, right now the only thing I'm thinking on and looking on is just how much will be expended from the county.
Well, so I guess my understanding or my question is, Jen said that the salaries and wages for all of Charles's staff are in the budget. So I guess if they're incurring overtime associated with processing.
No, I'm talking about just how many checks are going out next year.
Gotcha. Okay. And Charles has a list of those, don't you, Charles?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So why can't we just go off the list, or do you not know the dollar amounts associated with each one yet?
I had to go through every individual case and pull the orders from the judge. Then I had to go in and match that with the financial statements of what was actually paid. Some were eligible and some were not.
Okay. Okay.
So so I've completed that part of it. Now I have to get things ready for AOC. I'm trying to get all current with our Blake.
Oh, so you've completed the research part of it already?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, then you know how much was paid out.
I
No,
know I know how much was already set over there under vendor 420. I know that, but I still have more that has to go over there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. And I will know that next week.
Then can we bring back that number exactly at what we expect to write checks out of the county?
Yes, sir.
Next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so for now, we'll just leave it at as a PLR of 100,000.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and table that right now.
Yeah. And then you'll bring us the numbers that you can verify and stuff next week, so we can
Oh, absolutely.
put the
Absolutely.
verifiable number in there.
Yes,
And
sir.
again, for myself, Charles, I'm looking for a verifiable number of checks that you will be writing out from the county to individuals.
Exactly right. And I'll bring the orders to cooperate those.
And do you have a time frame associated with those as well? Like when you'll be writing those?
I should have everything 100% current, verified, and ready to go over by Friday. Not this Friday, a week Friday.
So you're talking about the 13th of October?
That'll work. Yes, ma'am.
And can you email those to us?
I'll send them over in our office. Yes.
Okay, so that is all that we have for the expenditures. So so far I just have the adding the travel and training, $1,140 to the maintenance level 3, and then the machine maintenance. Charles will come back with the agreement, the copier rental agreement, so we can see what the actual machine maintenance is, and we'll put that or change that amount if needed. And then the Blake, we will receive that by interoffice mail.
Also, just to let you know, Jennifer, Leo Kim, who's right by your office, also has a copy of the agreement.
Of the
contract.
The copier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure which agreement you're talking about. I don't think
that's the one. That's the one on our copier here, Leo.
I don't think I do.
Can you just send that to us again, Charles? I don't think it would really be Leo's responsibility.
Okay, I'll take care of that. Yeah. I thought you did, Leo. I'm sorry. I was just going to save some time.
Yeah, nope, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I think I was requesting it from you and I don't think I ever got it.
Okay, so thank you, Leo. So that's all that I have on the expenditures. Can we go over the revenue quickly? Besides the Blake, we have the LFO court reimbursement, $24,598.
What do you got there, Charles? Is that over and above what you've already been getting, or is that what you're expecting to get this year?
What's that, sir? I'm sorry.
The LFO court reimbursement.
That's what I was expecting to get reimbursed. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's not an additional. That is what do you have in a line item now, Jennifer?
So that one for the budget in 23 adopted, it's $402. And so for 24, the ask is 25,000. So it just looked like a really odd jump. In 2022, we received $4,194.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Nothing this year.
LFO court reimbursement.
And I'm looking at the detailed budget, and I can share that. That's probably way easier.
That would be great. That way we can see what it was before.
Okay, so here's the PLR amount, 24,598. The total ask is 25,000, and here's the prior year information. So nothing has been billed for or received through June of 23, and then 4,194 for 22. So that just, I didn't know if it was a new revenue source or what was going on there.
What are you basing it on, Charles?
Okay, that was a guesstimation on my part, and the reason for that is because it's coming down from this, as far as a mandate that a lot of these LFOs have to be refunded, and that's where I was coming up with that. But again, that number right there, if we want to hold off and come back, we can do that, because I don't have anything scientific to base that on. No.
Okay, if there's nothing scientific to base it on, Charles, it has to be a 0 for now, unless you have something you can show us in the future.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, and how about the 7,500 for case type 3 and 5 filings? That one looks like it's new, and there's no prior history in there.
So what is that for? What is that for? Maybe what we could do is just have Charles kind of give us an explanation of what these are for, and then we can come back to them.
Yeah, or since we're already over on our time, I can.
Madam Chair, maybe we can have him give us a narrative on those.
Yeah. Hold on one second, please.
A written. Are you talking about a written narrative? That's what I was thinking too. That's kind of what I was asking for. Hey, Charles?
I brought yes.
So what, since we're running over on time, would you and Terry work on just a narrative, just a written narrative of what the revenue is minus the Blake, and then just ship that over to us?
The revenue is minus the Blake.
Right. Okay. Can we do that? Yeah. All right. Yes.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Do we want to set a date that we want that narrative by? Maybe October 13th with the.
Along with the other? That would be great.
Yeah, I'd like it before I make any decisions, so.
Yeah, so by next Friday.
As soon as possible.
Sooner than
Jennifer, when are we scheduled to meet again?
I don't think we have any dates scheduled after this. So I believe the next opportunity that we had was sometime in, Mondays, we could do that. I believe it was maybe the week of October 23rd, 24th, 25th, that all commissioners were available again.
Yeah. Now, if this is something you can do right away, though, then I'd love to see it because we're having a briefing on Monday, just so I have it in my hand. If not, we'll wait until when he needs the time.
And so we're asking basically for the clerk's office to submit their narrative or resubmit their narrative. Is that what we're asking for, in addition to the Blake documentation?
And for me, a narrative of what these are, why we're bringing the number. And Charles, something I always like to see is what we've done the last 3 years. That's one of the things Jennifer was showing us. And if there's nothing in those lines for the last 3 years, we kind of like to know why you think there's going to be something in the line this year.
Okay. All right.
just and I, just a couple of things to put a finer point on it from me. I was surprised to see the passport revenue line restored. So I wish we had time to have a discussion about that to see why that's back. If you've changed your office's policy on that or what the
right now real fast. Right now we have a full staff. We're hoping to be able to eventually bring that back. We haven't done that yet. We still have the equipment, but I think the last of my certified passport folks just resigned, so I'm going to have to recertify people to bring into passport. Well, we are looking to bring back passports eventually.
Interesting. Okay. And then the other thing I would like to see included in the narrative that you resubmit is some discussion about you recovering the costs for involuntary treatment court proceedings. This has been an issue that I've tried to get in touch with you a number of times over, that I've had the BHO try to get in touch with you over for this entire year about reimbursement for those services. And so
right, and I just we got the binder, and I've signed the contract, and it's on its way.
Great. So I'd like to see some discussion of that in the narrative.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, so we're hoping for some information by October 9th. And if not, on the 13th.
Yeah, the sooner the better, just so that we can continue on with our workshops and getting the budget prepared. I will be in Wenatchee the week of the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if possible, I'd like to have it before the 9th also, because I'm away.
Okay, well, thank you.
Wenatchee's going to be colder, Commissioner. It was the last time.
Didn't say I was looking forward to
it. It was so nice the last time I was there, but boy, there's times where it's not a good thing to go.
I know, believe me. Bring my parka.
We're running very, very behind. Next, we have Public Health, Dave Windom.
Afternoon, Commissioners.
All right.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, and Jennifer. Yeah, hi. So, really, our budget is essentially the same as last year. Some of the funding sources have changed, so we're not spending COVID dollars. We're really utilizing our Foundational Public Health Services money. As you remember, during COVID, we hired 5 people under COVID dollars, and those people are just being transferred over into FPHS dollars. So they've transitioned into FPHS standard sort of public health work. So revenues about the same. Expenses are reflecting the increases in salaries through contract negotiations. And then we do have that extra batch of FPHS money that came in through Amendment 14. We did not include it in the budget because it wasn't ready for budget when DOH was working on it. So as we go to use those dollars, we'll do budget amendments and PLRs for requesting additional people.
Well, we're not done with this one yet, Dave. You can add it before we adjust it. See, one of the things I don't like is having a whole bunch of budget meetings and budget.
No, I get that, Commissioner. So here's the thing, though. Without expanding someplace to put people, some of that money we can't spend, and we thought it better not to stick it in the budget at this point until we can get some of those other things worked out. Now we can go ahead and ask. It's like $900,000, but it's we talked about this a little bit last year and then earlier this summer, and we're just looking to do budget amendments as we can access the money. Other than that, really no major changes.
You didn't have any PLRs, did you?
Nope.
Dave, I do have one question as it relates to the treatment sales tax fund.
Mhm.
So therapeutic courts, I think they'll be briefing here in a little bit. They have a request to transfer in 284, just under 285,000 for an expired grant. Has there been discussion between therapeutic courts and public health on that issue, or just to have some situational awareness heading into the briefing with them?
I haven't, but that's a good idea to get information on. You know, we have a substantial supply in the treatment sales tax, but I think it's time to take a look at. I think there's going to be a number of draws. You know, people asking to draw from that fund and use that fund. So that's definitely something we need to talk about.
Can I share my screen on the treatment sales tax?
Sure.
So I do this every year. I calculate out the budget, and the sales tax is based on, we budget about 13% into treatment sales tax based on our sales tax in the general fund. So so that's about $2 million if we're going off of a $9.2 million budget in the general fund for sales tax. Approximately $2 million of that would be budgeted in treatment sales tax. So I do need to up their budget a little bit for that in Fund 164. And then per resolution 2021-04042, we have different percentages that can be distributed to administration, our internal departments and offices, and then through RFP. So here's the percentages. So 10% for administration, 65% for internal departments, and then 25% through RFP or other contracted items. So the breakdown then is shown here of what's in our budget. So we have 100,000 budgeted for administration, and then 659,570 currently budgeted to internal departments. Oh, I do need to increase the sheriff. I think it was 150. So I think these might need to be updated just a little bit, but there is capacity in there to utilize the 1.3 million for the therapeutic courts.
But typically in the past, the therapeutic courts have asked for X amount of dollars and hadn't used that many dollars. So it may be a case that since the Blake decision, we're addressing that again. There may be more need for that.
Yeah, so this looks like this is specifically tied to a grant that expired, and so they were using the request is to utilize TST to replace the funding that was through the grant. I'm not particularly concerned about putting too much pressure on treatment sales tax. There's a healthy fund balance there. Dave is right, though. We have dipped into that for a couple of programs this year, and I think my bigger point is because there is a policy attached to how we spend that money, and there's a specific allocation that policy talks about. That, you know, my expectation would be that there would be some communication between public health and other departments that are requesting increases, especially when they're at the level that is being requested there. It might be a completely necessary and proper use of the treatment sales tax, but I just think there should be some communication, because as public health is evaluating other requests that are coming in from, you know, outside entities, like we funded the North Mason Fire psychiatric nurse practitioner program. We funded co-responder out of there this year. I think it's good just to have that level of communication between departments that use this fund, so that we don't find ourselves down the road in a position where we're, you know, overcommitting or missing opportunities.
That makes perfect sense to me. Is there a way that you'd want it specifically structured, Commissioner?
No, I mean, I just think that has to become more of the normal practice. You know, I mean, we have venues where we could probably talk about these things, like Housing Behavioral Health Advisory Board, you know, or Criminal Justice Working Team. I think there's cross-representation on both of those. There could be some opportunities for discussion there, but probably even just a note to Jennifer when preliminary budgets are coming in to, just have that as something that is, like we would for other special funds, just to have that, a check-in with everybody who might be impacted by a request coming out of it.
It states in the budget instructions or the budget guidelines that come out from you commissioners, for departments that are requesting treatment sales tax, to make sure that they're communicating with the transferring from department to make sure that those transfers in and out balance. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So I can definitely try and push for that to happen more.
Yep. So like I said, I don't have a particular issue with it. I just think it's something going forward for departments to keep in mind, that if they're going to draw from one fund that affects another department, that they should be having a conversation there.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't have any.
Nope.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
Casey.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Superior Court.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. This is Judge Goodell,
Hello, Judge.
and I'm just trying to get my computer screen to do what I want it to do. And I think I just did. Okay. So we have submitted 3 different budgets to the commission for considerations. That would be the Juvenile Court Services, the Therapeutic Court, and the General Superior Court. And before we get started, I do want to once again thank the commission for allowing or authorizing the financial position that Paul LaThale has filled. Our ability to do a much deeper dive into our finances is really enhanced. I feel much more on top of what is going on with our budgets, probably as much as I did back when Robin Lockwood had the job. And so I, as administrator, and we were smaller back then, but I appreciate that once again. I would like to begin with the juvenile court services. There are no PLRs identified with juvenile court services, but if there are any questions from the commission, I'd be certainly willing to field them. I do have Mr. Dunn present, as well as Ms. Bailey. Any questions?
I don't have any at this time.
None for me either.
Me either.
Okay, very good. Let's move on then to the therapeutic court. There is a notable PLR on that, and that is a request for funds being made available out of the treatment sales tax. It's a significant request. We are asking for $284,663. This is a function of a couple grants that are ending ended or ending. And this is to fill in the voids that result from that. And this number would support the program. There is no, you'll note on our PLRs, there's no request for additional expenses. It's purely on the revenue side. We are very optimistic that those holes will be filled this year. We don't know our timing, and we certainly can't guarantee it. So this number would be what is our worst case scenario. And our worst case scenario is that these grants during the 2024 are not renewed or replaced. That's not really renewed, it'd be replaced. And so that is what this request is. I have Ms. Henley also present. She's our administrator of the therapy courts as well. So do you have questions?
Yeah, so thanks, Judge. This is what I was just talking about with public health. So so it says in the PLR that this is a one-time event. Am I to understand that to be that this is a one-time request for funding from the treatment sales tax to fulfill this need in 2024, or am I to understand that if nothing else comes through, that this might be an ongoing funding request of Superior Court or therapeutic courts for treatment sales tax.
Okay, so yes, on both of those. So it is a one, we expect this to be a one-time request. Okay. If we do not, if there is no funding from these sources in the future, we recognize that we'll then need to come back before the board and say, this is where we are. These are our programs. This is, the effectiveness of our programs, which, by the way, have been very effective. Some have been are nationally recognized how the work here in Mason County is doing. And we may need to come back in 2025 and say these funds are just not available. We don't think that's going to happen. We think this is a one-time request. Can I sit here and say absolutely this is just a one-time request and we're not going to address this again? I don't know that, simply because I don't have a yes. And when I say yes, we didn't have enough to say yes or no to right now. Okay, so the major grant, the SAMHSA grant, terminates in July. Okay, so that's the major grant between the two. And Ms. or Kayla, correct me if I'm wrong. The other grant that we're talking, well, not correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me, the other grant that we're talking about is which grant? Is that already ended?
There was one, actually, it was extended. It was supposed to end at the end of September, and it was extended until the end of next September. So we do have some extra time on that grant.
And I was not aware, I didn't hear that just got extended. Does that affect the request?
This is for 2024, correct?
Yes.
So it would, I believe it would affect the request because it does pay personnel costs for for that portion of 2024 up until the end of September.
So as you see, we like I said, we're optimistic that these funds are going to be there. We just can't guarantee it. Sounds like one of those funds has been supported for at least into September of 2024, which doesn't get us to the end of the year. So this number 284,663, that need might best be addressed, maybe reduced by the amount of the difference of what we are expecting. But when we put this together, that was not an absolute.
How long you'd have a number for us?
We have the number now, Patty.
We will have a better number for you by this Friday.
Okay.
By when?
Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah, super helpful. I mean, I would be completely supportive of funding it regardless. But if there's a, correction in the funding level, then that just helps make that decision easier. So appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that I don't want to say that Mason County was a pilot project, but I think that our court system is awesome, and the things that we offer people, pretty amazing. I always brag about Mason County, but I do brag about our courts as well.
When it comes to the Family Recovery Court, which is part of that, we were the pilot project, and that's one of the accolades that we continue to receive is the successes that we have in reuniting families with that very intensive program.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you have graduations and reunitings, and I think it's awesome.
Any other questions on the therapeutic court budget? Okay, so let's move on to our general Superior Court budget. There are several PLRs that are noted here. I want to begin with the Mason County Court Commissioner, the miscellaneous function. And I'm going to give a little bit of a background explanation as to why this is where it's at. And so what you are well aware of is that our court has been in a transition phase for the last several years. We had Commissioner Sauerlander retire. followed a year after that by Judge Finley retiring. And so we brought in a new commissioner initially, and that was Judge Ferguson Brown, who now was brought in as our judge when Judge Finley retired, and then Commissioner Teresa Butler came in to fill in the commissioner position that at the time Commissioner Ferguson Brown was filling. When you have new judicial officers coming in, especially now two, it takes a great deal of training that is required. They have credit hours they have to get into, they have to go to judicial college. Those type of things have been extensive, especially during the first half of this year. We expect that and we have to be, speak the obvious, we work at the will of the people. There's an election coming up. I don't know what the outcome is, but there is a potential that we have more training issues that we're going to have to deal with this coming year as well. So that's one consideration. The second one is we continue to have a considerable amount of hearings. Our dockets are filled to the brim. In the past, when we had a judicial officer out who was either sick or on vacation, the dockets were manageable enough that we were able to just disperse them with the other judicial officers that are present without having to tap into the miscellaneous court commissioner, which is basically someone who's on call to come in and sit in. That has become much more difficult to accomplish. I can give a very brief example of my docket yesterday. My morning docket, I got done at 3:30 in the afternoon before I got to my ex-party docket, and that was without a lunch break. And because it was a juvenile docket, very active juvenile docket, and so these things are becoming more common. And we continue to adjust things to work things, but we also recognize that when one of us is gone, our abilities to pull up that extra slack is difficult. And then finally, the third point I wanted to point out is that come 2024, we have several complex criminal trials that we are expecting to go out. And as a result of that, there will be lengthy trials. And so when you have a lengthy trial, what happens is that we have to double court, which means that we pull the civil judge off of the civil trials. Those get continued, and they do the other criminal trial. Because oftentimes when you have these lengthy trials, you have to keep on, you have deadlines, your final start dates that the trials have to happen in front of. And so we have to do that. And when we start pulling, we have to start covering. And so we'll be bringing in a miscellaneous court commissioner to help cover those. And then the criminal judge also would not be working on the Tuesday dockets, and they'll have to cover on those as well. So when you add all three of those together, and then we take a look at what we did this year, we are quite concerned that we need these additional funds. So we increased our budget from the existing 28 to another 12 on top of that to get us to 40,000 as a guess. And then I did check with Paula this morning as to where we were currently in our 2023, and we have exceeded our budget for 2023 right now. We're running at around 35,000. We're really watching it right now because that's in excess of what we had identified before, and trying very hard not to bring in a miscellaneous court commissioner for the rest of the year. And it's been difficult, but we've been more successful in trying to do that. Most of our classes are done right now, and so we're feeling pretty positive. We're not going to be too much further over. And when we look at the bottom line budget, we don't think we'll have to come back for 2023 to ask for any more funds because we do believe that there's some areas that will have some excess funds remaining for this year. So that is the miscellaneous court commissioner, and the reason why that additional ask is for $12,000. And I will open it up for discussion if anybody has any questions about that before I move on.
So you're going to be able to do training and cover extra hours with 12K?
We did trainings for 2 this year, and coverage, and we're at 35, and we're hoping to be right around 40 by the end of the year. So that's this year. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do the same next year. But you know, it's a different court if you think about it. I mean, we went from, you know, Judge Sawyer, who was on the bench for, you know, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and Judge Sheldon, who was on the bench for, you know, 25 plus years herself. Judge Finley was on the bench for 14 years, and so all of a sudden we have these influxes of people leaving, and we have to train up. So it's different for us. We didn't have that. We don't have that long-term stability that we used to. We hope to get there again, but it's going to be a while. Other questions?
12,000 just seems small.
It does to me too. And I appreciate it, Your Honor. But that's 12,000 on top of the other monies is what you're telling us. And
yes,
but
yes,
if we're going to add more court commissioner action, how much are we paying them a day?
Okay, well, we are, Patty, I think that our new number is how much per hour?
$75 an hour.
We're at 75. Are we at 75 for 24? For 2024?
This also includes an increase in the rate of pay to $90 an hour to match what district court commissioners get.
I'm gonna say something I never say, but commissioners, I think they're under on this one, even for maintenance.
Well, we, you know, what we deal with here is we know that when we come before you guys, we're going to ask for what our best guesses are going to be.
No,
okay.
I appreciate that. I guess mine is more of a request, I guess, of the other commissioners to see how they feel about that. Because I do believe with everything going on, we have the possibility of the changes occurring, maybe not. But if we do, that is the extra training. We know we're going to need the extra hours. I see it as maintenance. My question is, even though I see it as maintenance, I see it as an underfunded maintenance.
Well, I guess even if it is under, I'm sure the judge and Patty don't mind coming back and asking us for more. But maybe
I would say if we are in a position where we have a new judge, we will probably be back for additional hours to cover judicial college for a new judge. I think our ability to keep to a 40 number with a new judge is going to be a challenge, but of course that's an unknown for all of us right now.
yeah, I feel like we go with what the request is, and then if additional is needed, then we can add to it.
Yeah, I can live with that for sure. Certainly, you know, in the past when we've had these situations in district and superior court, we've been understanding of you know, what goes into having to prepare for a transition at the elected level, and see no reason why we wouldn't be in the future as well.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
No, but before you even start the next one, it looks like we're calling it maintenance. We had a conversation yesterday in regards to the bailiffs. I don't have a necessity to hear an argument for it. I agree with the increase of the bailiff as well as maintenance.
And we recognize we still need to get approval on that $20 an hour, but we figured we wanted to get into the budget first. So
do the other commissioners agree so that they don't have to?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
I'm good. The only reason I put it in and then ask for forgiveness, basically. I just think that's funny, but no, I think it's a good idea.
okay, so let's move on then to the the replace age cameras. So that relates to our Superior Court, our JAV system, which is our recording system that audio and video records. There was a meeting with IT and the IT steering committee recommended that there be a upgrade to those cameras. There was a software upgrade, and they believe that those cameras are too antiquated now in the Superior Court. The level of quality is not sufficient, and they believe that they should be upgraded. And so we priced out with JAVs what the upgraded cameras for the main courtroom would be, and it came out to $27,000. So that's what that number is.
So is that just for the main courtroom?
Yes, it's just one courtroom, and it's everything that we do in that world is pricey.
Yeah.
As you're well aware.
Yeah. So what about the other courtrooms? Are they going to need to be replaced as well?
Well, the main courtroom has the oldest cameras. And so I don't know what rendition the other courtrooms are, but I know they are newer renditions. And they have not been identified by IT as needing an upgrade at this time.
Well,
go ahead.
I don't know. I would say that it's maintenance.
Yeah, Kevin, you guys looked at this?
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I would also probably hew towards this being more of a one-time expense in the sense that we're not buying this every year. There's no real ongoing cost. So we're still keeping track of more or less one-time expenditures. I would put this in that category as well.
I would agree with it being a one-time.
Yep, me too.
Okay, so move that to maintenance level, 27,000.
Yeah.
So we still have the bailiff's wage increase, and then the trackable tools to talk about. And we are running a little bit behind.
I thought we covered the bailiff.
Oh, did we? Sorry, I missed that.
Okay.
So that one is a yes, 48.59.
Yeah.
And then the trackable tools of 2,000.
Right, and the primary focus of those that is more of a miscellaneous need. An example of that would be the hearing assisted devices that we have in our courts. They're rather old, and they are breaking down, and so they're pricey. I say pricey, over $500. We have in every our courtroom we have headsets, and there's a receiver that's hooked up to our JAV systems. So people that are coming in, they're witnesses or they're parties or they're jurors or whatever, and they need them. That's going to be probably the primary use of that 2,000. It's just an estimate. We think it will be well within that for the year, given our track record.
I'm supportive of maintenance.
Yep.
I am as well.
Okay, so that was an easy one. So the full 45,859 will be moved to maintenance then.
Okay. Works for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes in our presentation. Thank you so much, commissioners, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Go have some dinner since you missed lunch.
It's becoming a trend, unfortunately. Okay, you guys take care.
You too.
And last, on today's list, we have Public Works, Loretta.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So first up is our road fund. And we have a couple of proposed revisions here on the PLRs. And So the first, we have the IT trackable equipment. That's the recommended replacement. That's okay. The intern for approximately $29,000. That, commissioners, you approved a permanent position in our admin division. And so we will propose to remove that expenditure here. And then under the capital machinery and equipment line for $850,000, that included $350,000 for a grinder. And Mike can address that a little bit further, but we don't believe it's quite timely to make that purchase at this time. So we would be reducing the 850 to 500,000. And the 500,000 is for a $60,000 F-150 and 2 F-550s for a total of $440,000.
So Jennifer, are we already keeping any money in this line item anyway, that rolls over each year?
We are not. For the capital, I wipe that out every year.
Okay.
On maintenance level.
Okay, then I'm comfortable with it.
And then the last item for $235,000, that's for some new shelving for our files, some improvements to the conference room, and HVAC repairs that need to occur.
More HVAC.
Yeah, I know. Well, this portion was parked until I think they had the equipment, basically. So that's 150,000 of this request.
That's how we mark the passage of time. HVAC,
Right.
public works, and jail studies.
Exactly. Sadly.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Okay, and the 15K was okay for the IT trackable.
All right, remind me what that was for.
I don't think I got any breakdown on that, so
It was the recommended schedule, replacement schedule per IT.
I don't think it was, because I have the recommended replacement schedule in maintenance level.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have anything that I've got listed for separate, Jen, that I'm aware of. Let me make a quick check. Oh, bear with me. I'm probably cutting survey out of some important. No, that's an $800 laptop for survey.
And that should be under the
right.
And so I have $4,000 under GIS for a replacement of 2 computers, and then
yep,
1 computer under engineering. So that could be your survey computer, possibly.
Yeah, I see nothing else under IT trackable. So I think we could probably axe that.
Okay, great. So we just have the 500,000 for the 3 vehicles, and then 235,000 for the new file system.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And commissioners, you're fine with that? In maintenance?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so next, for PLRs, we have landfill and then the utilities. And of course, ER and R. I meant Public Works, I said for ER and R.
All right. So on the landfill PLRs, let's see what changes we have there. So we've got an increase in overtime. And Jen, I'm not sure, are these new notes? It says leave it as a OT. Okay.
So that was the note that we had during the overview on September 25th, but I believe that note got put in because we were going over other departments where we had left the OT in, but I think for the landfill, the OT need is probably greater than in office departments. And so I thought I would let you argue that point.
Okay, all right. Are you away, Richard?
Well, my request is based on actual expenditures. Today, you know, it's we haven't hired anybody else out there really for operators, and that's where this comes into. We've got 4 operators that have nearly doubled what they're handling over the last 3 years, and it's just tough on them, and they're required to be there more, and we've had some, you know, just when people are out, we have to fill it with overtime or Kevin.
But we're not quite there in terms of requesting an additional position.
Exactly. I don't feel good about asking for an additional position when it's not really, I don't have that much work to
fill.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, I mean, you're expending through June, you've expended 23,500 and you're pretty well staffed, it looks like. So, I mean, you might even want to look at increasing that ask.
So I mean, I would be supportive at the 18,000 level for sure, and if there is a different number that we need to look at, I'm open to that as well. But Richard, when did we add staffing out there the last time? It's been a couple of years, correct?
Yeah, we've never added another operator since I've been here. We've added another booth attendant.
Oh, okay,
we got rid of part-time people and made it a full-time person.
Gotcha.
I think though we did add an operator right before you came on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think you're right, Commissioner. We did have that discussion, but that's because we were dying trying to find anybody that could do it at all.
Right.
We were in trouble.
I might have information on that. I can go back and look too.
Any other questions about the overtime, commissioners?
Nope.
Okay, and then the next item is 360,000 for some capital improvements, and that's the tipping floor and replacing the booths at the outer stations. And that also includes some equipment, an equipment request, correct, Richard?
Yeah, that includes, let's see, okay, replacing the booths at all outer stations, and then tipping floor replacement, skid steer mower, and attachments, so we could keep up with the brush, and the brush and the Himalayan blackberries there. You stay still long enough, they'll take over.
A never-ending battle there.
Yeah. And
although this is where we could put those actual goats to work also, right?
Real goats, yeah. I mean,
real goats.
Yeah. But it's more than just the mower part of it. It's also the, you know, bucket, a broom, forks, so we could use it for a lot of things other than just brush.
Any questions on the requested capital?
Just where you expecting the revenues to come from?
This would not require a rate increase, Commissioner.
No, I know it wouldn't, but I'm just looking at your numbers. You have, revenues, and you have salaries, and you have basically a break even. So what are we expecting? They'll just come out of the ending fund balance?
Yeah, so this shows the operating and the ending fund balance lumped together.
Okay.
Here. So the ending fund balance is healthy for them.
Nope, that works for me. I see it. Before we're over, go up to the top for the road fund with all that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what I thought. I expect it'll be more at the end, but a little bit.
All right. Anything else on solid waste, Richard?
Yeah, that was pretty.
That is it. Unless commissioners have any other questions about what we're up to there.
Not for me.
Not for me.
Okay.
Okay, I expanded that so you can see the beginning fund balance, the projected revenues.
Yeah.
Full revenues include beginning fund balance. And
I appreciate it.
Sorry about that. I should have done that to begin with.
All good. Only needed to look at it because we're going over with the other was, but it's still there. I just need to see it.
Okay, so next we have North Bay Sewer Utility.
Okay, and then commissioners for North Bay, the budget that was submitted included the 9% or assumed an increase of revenue by 9%, and that was based on the rate recommendations and the rate analysis that was completed earlier. But if you recall, we also had an affordability analysis that went along with that. And for North Bay, we, would, to meet our affordability targets, we would want to hold the 2023 rate and not have an increase. And so if we were to do that, then the question would be, what is the impact on our overall budget? Where are we either pulling out of the North Bay Reserve to make sure we're proceeding with our capital improvements that are necessary, or are we cutting, are the two choices there. And I suppose another potential option would be a very moderate increase, say a 2%, and what does that do to the rate? And if we were to implement a 2% increase, then we're outside of that target of our median household income percent. So we want to be mindful of that as well.
I definitely don't want to plan for anything above zero at the moment. Not for planning if we decide to do it, but because we're going to have some pretty heavy conversations there. I would also expect that we would look at what's necessary compared to what we think is good, even though I'm a pusher for redundancy. I know I just got done saying it to you yesterday.
Yes.
And I still believe it. But it would, look at that. And also, we also had a conversation yesterday about what to look for grants and stuff, and the idea of doing something that covers a bunch of them at one time. That may be an option, but we just don't know that until the time comes.
Yeah. And again, in North Bay, we do have a fairly healthy reserve. But at the same time, you also recall our planned capital expenditures that we laid out over the next several years, and also the fact that our general sewer plan will likely point to some additional capital as well. But long story short, I think that we we could hold tight with a 0% this year, without significant impact.
Loretta and Richard, could you just kind of briefly walk through the planned improvements for 2024 and what kind of the breakdown of that 850K is?
Yeah, let me pull it.
And then as you're doing that, just sort of what, does any of that get delayed, or should any of that get delayed because of a 0% increase?
Let me try to get this one. As soon as I get my note picked up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this should be a pretty easy one. We do have work that it has to occur, and I have like the Highway 302 sewer relocation. WisDOT's going to move forward. We have a franchise agreement. We got to do it. Have to do it. I've got 200,000 in there. I think that's more than enough, but I don't know. So that's part of it, the improvements. Process control and monitoring equipment. That's just part of the CIP. I've got $355,000 in there for that, and I could easily spend all that, or I can be more targeted and make that process occur over a 2-year period. But my preference would be, and probably what's really going to happen is the general sewer plan is going to take more than 1 year to develop. Right. And I've got all of it budgeted in 1 year, like we could do it. So I see extra money being left over there. They say North Bay, this is an easy one. I can easily make it all year without a rate increase and still accomplish these things.
Okay. That's good information.
Basically, because I know, like I said, the general sewer plan, I know that it'll probably be $200,000 that will really be spent this year in 2024. But that's all I got really planned for North Bay. I'm just following the CIP and have to work.
So commissioners, do I hear adjust the budget accordingly to show a 0% increase in rate revenue and then decrease on the expenditure side on the capital?
I would recommend keeping all the capital in there. I mean, we've got the capacity. I'd rather have a little too much budget rather than not enough and have to come back and ask you to do an amendment for it. So personally, I would like to keep that 855 as an expenditure if you're okay with that, commissioners.
I would also agree with that. As we know, I don't like when we are setting things up to have to do adjustments later in the budget. So I'd rather, but that's just a personal preference.
No, I agree.
I do as well. On the rate side of it, does zeroing it conflict with our policy at all, or do we have the latitude in policy to not increase?
I don't know. I mean, your last one just kind of bookended it.
Right.
I don't think it gave it I don't know. I'd have to get more familiarized.
No, I believe, Commissioner, you are correct. So right now we're set up to have an automatic increase per code by the CPI. So we will need to bring something before commissioners to make that correction or that adjustment.
I would agree with that. I think we only just covered the moment with what we did the last time. We'd have to do something again to make a change for this year.
Yep.
Who would have thought we would ever find a utility that would have a 0? So,
right.
I don't think we would have anticipated that.
Okay.
So next is North Bay.
I'm sorry, Jen, one more time.
Are we gonna, I'm sorry, Russellwood.
I was gonna say, I thought we just did North Bay. What was I talking about then?
Getting late in the day, sorry.
Deja vu.
North Bay again, that's a fun one. I don't want to do Russellwood.
Yeah, Russellwood will be a little bit more challenging in our options here. So starting with Russellwood Sewer, actually that's a little bit easier than the water recommendations. So Jen, would you mind, would it be okay if I do a quickie screen share? Is that all right?
Stop sharing.
If I can make sure I'm pulling the right one up here. Okay. I think okay. So commissioners, we're looking at the summary of the affordability analysis and what are proposed. So the 23 rates for the Russellwood sewer are 118 per ERU, and our target is 111. So this is very similar to what we just discussed with North Bay. And for Russellwood Sewer, if you were to follow a similar approach, we would stick with a 0% increase for the sewer. Again, if we were to do, say, a moderate increase of 2%, that would put us at around 2.2% of the median household income. And as you can see on this, what we're recommending based on future capital and our current capital expenditure needs is a 9% increase.
I'm hoping that we are going to be uniform across the board with our recommendations. This is my personal preference, that we would do the same in the budget temporarily.
Randy, can you explain that a little bit more to me?
Yes, the affordability rate, remembering, which I know everybody already knows, we're not making any decisions today on that. We're still going to bring it to the community and do all the things that are necessary. But for budgeting purposes, as a target, I think right now affordability is reasonable to consider, and it would be the same argument for every utility that we're doing. On sewer, that is. When it comes to water, I'm still a believer that we are going to have a conversation, so the public that is watching understands that the affordability for base. But when we start talking about people that choose to have and water huge yards and wash their cars 3 times a week and fill swimming pools, that's not the same, and that each individual person should pay the excess at a different rate than the affordability rate.
Right, so you're talking normal usage, anything above normal.
Yep.
Right.
But for budgeting, I like the idea for this at this moment, because we're not going to get it wrong. If we decide to do something, we're going to cover it through REIT or whatever. But the idea of the affordability rate for what goes into the program.
Commissioners, would it be helpful for Richard to walk through what that means if we were to stick with the current rate, how that would impact our expenditures or need for additional revenue?
Yeah, I saw it as a need for additional revenue for a few of these things that are necessary, and I expect that we will probably come up with it through REIT 09 or through something from our legislators. So I think somebody said it earlier. I think we're better off not to cut things out at this moment and just not utilize the funds if they don't materialize during the year.
Yeah. Jen, can we I'd like to know how healthy our REIT is.
Yeah, we can take a look at that now if you would like. So for REIT 2, I mean, we really have a pretty good fund balance. We can go back to the
A large portion of that is designated though, isn't it, Jen?
REIT 2.
Yeah. For Belfair. That satisfying.
It is, yeah, but I mean, we have, I mean, it's way healthier than REIT 1. And we do have a portion of the beginning and ending fund balance that we keep for Belfair. And right now that is at $2 million in our 2024 budget. But I mean, we're still projecting a $4 million beginning fund balance, or actually $4.5 million beginning fund balance.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an ending fund balance, so even higher, I think, for the beginning fund balance is projected to be.
I had around 5.4 in my heads and my notes, but I could be off. That'd be the highest end, is what I had.
Yeah, I have it projected at 5, and I normally try to be a little bit conservative. So it's probably going to be a little bit higher. So yeah, ending at about 4 and 4.6 roughly. So so yeah, there's some capacity in there. And we just have $1 million budgeted for other capital improvements, and those would be earmarked in the capital facilities plan. But I don't have any breakdown of what that is in our budget.
And then some of the money that you're maybe thinking about for Belfair is also the money's out of the 09 fund that we were just discussing and putting notice out on.
In the 09 fund, that's a whole nother story. So we are projecting a beginning fund balance of approximately 2.3 million, bringing in about $1,055,000, which I need to adjust that because that will be based on our sales tax. So I increased the general fund to 9.2 from 8.8. So I'll do the same conversion in the rural sales and use tax fund. So somewhere in the range of 1.1 million roughly in revenue. And then expenditures, we have the EDC, we have the Belfair sewer, 450,000, and then we have the City of Shelton sewer payment, which is 109,000 for next year.
Commissioner Owen, just checking to see if I am understanding you correctly. Are you proposing that we freeze rates for all utilities?
No, because some of them will go up if we were to do the maximum livable amount. If I remember correctly, some of them do go up. It's just, yeah. So shaking her head, yes.
Yes.
So no, it would just be to budget along that maximum livable rate. And if we decide to adjust it because of something else, then we could adjust it at that point.
So
and I was only talking about when it came to expenditures, if to keep things still in there the same for expenditures, because the hope would be for this year, while we're figuring things out, to either pay cut back on what's needed, pay for what's needed through what we have in reserve or REIT or 09. And with the hope also of paying for some of them through legislative ask with all the utilities as a whole.
Gotcha. Okay, now I understand what you're proposing.
And we do have to be careful using sales and use tax and rate, of course, to make sure that it's a eligible use.
Yes.
And quite frankly, that has been and will continue to be somewhat of a challenge in Russellwood.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've always found a way to do it, but even if we had to, because we have to keep that solvent, especially as we figure out some of the things that are going on there. That's one of my ones for the greatest hope of a legislative help. But we could always take out an ending fund balance of ourselves to keep it going, because it shouldn't be that great of an amount during the year if we had to, but for what we couldn't get to fit through there. But I'm hoping not to do any of the above.
So for Russellwood Sewer, I'm hearing, at least from one commissioner, to hold that rate, but keep the expenditures as proposed. Same as what the approach from North Bay.
So when we say, this is again where I get a little bit confused. So when we're saying freeze the rate or hold the rate where it is, that's no increase on the rate.
That's correct.
So that's where I typically have a concern. And and I understand in North Bay, given the significant increases that we've placed on that system over the past few years, that that has a healthier fund balance, all those things. I kind of get that. I said the same thing last year, and I'll say it again now. It's like, I just really get concerned about, when we just have sort of a broad freeze on rate increases, and that, I don't want to relitigate this because we talked about it yesterday, but that's part of the challenge of not having this new rate structure adopted, heading into 2024. So I'm a little bit concerned about sort of picking and choosing where we increase rates and not, especially in some of these struggling utilities.
Well, if we ended up going with the livability rate of the 2%, then it won't be picking or choosing anymore. It'll be establishing that one policy that goes across all of them with a 2.5%, which is a different expectation on water for up to 2.5% on the base rate. It would actually not be picking and choosing anymore. It would be establishing a policy for increase.
So we set rates once a year. Would your anticipation be then, once we adopt this rate structure, then to have an amendment to the rates that we charge in 2024?
Probably, and then look at how we're going to do it from the future on how we can increase it and stay within the livability rates. If we have special assessments or something else, maybe, I don't know.
I'm really supportive of the livability. I like the format that the rate proposal is in, but my concern is, typically we have set these, for the year ahead, not made any mid-course corrections, and just waited to revisit, the next budget. And so, if there is some interest in holding serve right now until we make some of these changes and adopt a different structure, with the anticipation that at some point in 2024 we would implement that rate structure, then that's a different kind of conversation. And am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's where I'm at, because I don't want to make a decision on rate structure before we go out to the communities, because we promised them that we would. I'd like to have the different options, and then the commissions make the final decision. I'm just thinking so that we don't overestimate early. I don't see any formula where we go less than this. So this is just setting it up with this structure is just the way to for budgeting, to make sure we don't have to readjust in a negative direction.
I do have concerns, commissioners and Loretta and Richard, about the beginning fund cash balance and where where they're going to end up versus what the projection is, and the actual budgeted revenue that's in the budget, and the expenditures, and whether this fund is going to be able to keep afloat with what's in there until next year. I mean, it's always had problems.
Always.
I really am concerned about not raising the rate. I mean, I just feel like that will make that problem even worse.
Well, and Russellwood is the fund that we have to transfer the money that comes in from the second quarter percent of real estate excise tax in early because they get to a negative cash position.
Right.
And we've been in that situation the whole time that I've been
Correct.
here. It's just, you know, bees, bears, water's wet, and Russellwood runs backwards until we find some other way to bring some type of revenue in there or something. I really don't want to see us just try to live on their back and, you know, without finding a way to bring those costs down, because the affordability rate, we won't be able to sustain it. We never could have. We haven't been able to sustain what we're even charging now for all the years I've been here.
How does the livability rate align with the current code, Loretta?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Commissioner.
So with our bookends that we currently have in code.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
What's the trying to align that with the spreadsheet that you have in front of us? So it seems like for Russellwood that it would align with what we currently have in code. Is that for the target?
So the target, what we're recommending would be a 2.33%. So 0.33 above the median high or median household income. And that's for the sewer. And then for the water, we would be 0.8% above the median household income.
And that one's normally higher anyway. Instead of 2%, it's estimated that water should come in at 2.5, correct?
That's correct, yes. So between the two, water and sewer, the recommended target is 4.5%.
But for what we created last year, we're allowed to stay within this rate. But I think no matter what we created last year, I think that has a sunset, basically. I don't think it was open-ended. So we have to do something, either go back to the original way of structuring the rates or create something new or another stopgap for a year. I don't think it can just continue. If I understood your question correctly, Commissioner.
Well, I think what I'm saying is if we looked at our current code, we would have the ability to increase the rate essentially at that 2% or just above, without having to make a change, at least for Russellwood, as Russellwood's concerned. And then, you know, if right? I mean, is that?
I think actually, so what Commissioner Netherlands stated was correct. What we adopted last year was a one-time, one-year measure. So this year, without any action by commissioners, our code or our rate increase would be by the CPIU.
So it automatically reverts at the end of the year?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, so okay. Yeah. I mean, an option would be just to essentially extend, you know, what we the current code. I mean, change the sunset on that.
Yep.
Until we adopt something else to replace it.
Yep.
And that would give us time to go out to and introduce our thoughts to those that want to hear it.
Yeah, when does our automatic rate increase usually occur? What's the date? Is it January 1st or is it somewhere else?
It is the 1st.
So we have to do something
prior,
one way or the other, if we wanted to buy time, or we get it out there sooner rather than later. I'm open to either one, but I think at the bare minimum, Commissioner Schuette's on to something. We better be preparing to get that paper before us.
Yeah, you have to notify them to the rate payers ahead of time.
And that was something we did as all part of the budget hearing process last year, the adoption of the budget.
We just included all of that into the hearings.
Yeah, I believe so. Right, Jen? It's a blur, but that was my recollection, that was part of the hearing.
Yeah, I think it all happened right around the same time. I want to say it was November-ish that the rates that we changed them from the code. Which gave you adequate time to send out the notice that they were going to increase for January.
Right, because if we adopt the budget on the 4th of December, how many days do you need to notify of any increase?
That's about the time when we go right out with our notification of the change. So in that first mailing.
That's concerns.
So there is another option. I'm not saying it's the best option. I'm just saying it is another option. The other option is we do nothing. It goes into effect as our code prescribes, and then after we make our decision, we go backwards on the rate to where it's supposed to be. Which I'm not actually against that, but it may mean extra work. But yet we're going to create extra work if we have them go through a whole process to change the structure again for 1 year. So I don't know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Right. Which overwork do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, no, let's look at that as a question. Loretta, which overwork do you want?
I can't imagine going back and redoing the billing with a different rate. I mean,
No, I think it would be day forward from when we passed it, right, Commissioner? That's what you were talking about.
If you're Y rating, but if your goal is to get down to the 2%, then it can't be if we increase it. I didn't mean to throw a monkey wrench into everybody. It was just something that came into my mind. Don't think I'm pushing it or anything. It was literally just a thought. Let's ignore it and move forward.
So you just let it sunset and then.
Yeah, because Loretta never said anything, and I don't want to create more work. It was just letting you know there are the different options. There's the one that we change. There's the one where we let it sunset and then come back and change it after we make a final decision as the county.
And I think if I had a preference, I would just extend the sunset on what we adopted last year.
With that, if not mistaken, though, there's still a minimum. So you're still going to have an increase. So we may actually, I'm making things harder. I'm sorry. I'm just going off of memory, but I think there was a minimum. So we will be increasing and would be running into the problem of cutting it back anyway.
How much was the increase? I don't remember.
Was it a 2% minimum?
Yeah, 2 to 5.
Yeah. So no matter what.
Is there a scenario under this, Loretto, where there isn't an increase for one of the utilities under the proposed rate structure?
Yeah, Belfair goes up.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is there one that doesn't go up?
Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
Get unmuted. If you take a look at, again, the spreadsheet here, for the recommendation is actually an increase for all utilities, okay? But if you were to look at what utilities, if you wanted to cap it to this target of the median household income percent, then the utilities that have room for increases are Beards Cove, Russellwood Water, and Belfair Sewer. So we could still increase rates and still be well within the median household income target. The utilities where we would not be within that threshold are North Bay and Russellwood Sewer and Russellwood Water.
Just for some context, the way we used to do it would be from the April to April CPI, and that is 4.9%.
Which is under the maximum allowance in the current code.
That's correct. Yes, we could take the 4.9 under the current resolution.
Only if we extended it.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, either way, it would be under the, I mean, if it reverted, it would still be within that bookend that we established.
Yeah. Yep. And it would be half of what is recommended for North Bay, half of Russellwood. Belfair, we'd be looking good. We'd be within the recommended increase for Belfair. And then short for Russellwood Water and Beards Cove Water.
Could we also just do a resolution shifting the day for decision making and changes to February 1?
So you're saying move the sunset date to February?
No, change our just like we created this new one to handle it for this year. We can create a new one that changes the date for this year of deciding for any type of increases or decreases to be moved instead of January 1 to February 1. That gives us time to get it out there to the public, make a decision and everything else.
I like the way that you're thinking on that. I just wonder if it wouldn't just make sense to just extend what we currently have to a date certain and then just come in with a whole resolution that recognizes the new structure that would just keep us on the regular, 1/1 to 12/31 cycle. Kind of gets to the same place. It's just, it doesn't change when they implement a rate going forward. Because I would imagine if we extended the implementation date to February for the purposes of this discussion, we'd probably be right back here trying to go back to January 1 start date for 25, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's why I said the resolution would just be a one-time extension of when it would go into effect. Again, just an idea of trying to how to get there, because this way the decision date is moved up. I'd hate to do any increase than have to. Actually, it's not that bad to do an increase for a month and take it back. It's just, because you're not taking it back, you're just changing from that point forward. Those people that had the automatic increase would see it and appreciate it. So it's not that bad of a deal there. If it's just the work that goes with it for staff that I would worry about.
I would worry about that too, especially I'm sure you have been in touch with the programmers, with the CAMs, but I would think that would be a huge overhaul to,
I haven't been in touch with nobody, Jennifer.
Oh, I didn't mean you. I meant Loretta. Sorry.
Do you have a recommendation, Loretta, with what you're hearing, what you're thinking, or Mark?
I personally recommend that we move forward with the analysis as it was done here and get it changed. And if it doesn't happen before January, which is very unlikely that it would, if you do increase if we did increase the rates per the if we do it per the policy, it's going to be 4.9%. So then I guess as far as looking into the future, I would hate to reduce rates.
Right.
I would prefer to keep them constant. So if we changed our methodology to say we're going to go with median family income as our limiter as to what we will charge. If the amount is over, then there's zero increase for the next year until it catches up.
I would prefer not to Y rate. I really, but that's again, that's a thing for everybody, but that just doesn't. If we're going to do it, I think we do it and we get it done and get it established for all the time. If we're going to Y rate this one, Y rate that one, it's been such a trouble with staff. I can't see how it'd be any better with utilities. You know, customers, that many customers and stuff, and trying to explain it later.
Yeah, I think that'd be very confusing to the customer.
Yeah.
Like us to just get to a rate where people know what to expect. You know, it's going to raise by the median household income rate every year, or we set it at the 2% or whatever. But I think for me, I would like to know what to expect.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of what that was the intent of this analysis, right? Because we put in a capital facilities plan, we put in, here's the cost of maintaining and operating these utilities into the future. And so that's the rates that you saw recommended there. I don't think Russellwood Water, that's feasible to say that we would increase the rates by 100 or 311%. But for our other utilities, that our goal is to keep it closer to that target. But there are going to be times where we're going to have to do some work that may require it to go over. So,
and at that time, we'll have those conversations in the terms of an assessment of some sorts or how it'd be done.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting when we do go to a tiered structure, because I mean we have an estimate about how customers will react,
right?
And we just don't know.
That's why it's so important that we get it out there and we let them tell us.
Yeah,
we do it in the form that they did at the DOT when we have the chalkboard set up there on the side and we take their input and their recommendation. And their recommendation, I believe, unless I'm wrong, which I could easily be, is going to be I'll pay my fair share, but nothing more. And if that's what they feel, then we will have the documentation to show and prove to the community we're doing what you put into place and you wanted. Which, you know, and if they want something different, then we'll hear it. I think it's justifiable too. Like I said, I know that there's individuals that are on the same water system as anybody else that fill pools, literally fill swimming pools. Fire departments actually will come out and fill your swimming pool. They'll charge you sometimes to do it, and they different ways to do it. Here in the city, they have a lot of different ways that they establish that to get those kid pools that are, you know, 3.5 feet deep, 4 feet deep by 18 feet long. That's a lot of water. And if you choose to have that, you need to pay for that and not make your neighbor pay for it. That's my argument that I would say at the town halls when we're talking of where my belief is, but it's up to the community. I think for now, can we just agree to keep it at 0 for the moment until we decide what we're going to do, so we can at least move on with the budget briefing?
I think that's a good idea. We still have time. I mean, the hearing is a ways off, so we can continue this discussion.
I really think too, if we're going to a tiered rate, I mean, weren't we going to do an overlap of the bill? Your bill is this. When we change the rates, this is what it would be had you been on this tiered rate.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to need a few months to do that, right?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, then the other, again, we can come right back to it again, that we put in, but I'd still say for the budget, keep it at zero, so we're ahead of the game, not behind it. We put into place like we do every year, and then come back and fix it and go backwards, and just fix it.
By doing a transfer from the general fund, you mean, into Russellwood?
Well, we're going to be doing that some way, either through the general fund or 09 or REIT for Russellwood, no matter which one we choose here on this one. There's no way that produces enough money to pay for itself this year. So
yeah, I'm almost tempted to suggest putting a transfer into the budget so that it's there and available.
I'm actually supportive of that, and I'm glad you said it, because I thought that forever here. I think we should do that this year.
Okay. And from, I mean, I would think that, I mean, I would like to think REIT could pay for it, but we've already got REIT paying for the debt payment. So I don't know how we would justify.
We can take money out of the general fund's ending fund balance, put in for a bottom line cap to sit in there, but still charge into REIT anything that's REIT, charge into 09, anything can be used for 09 for any of the expenditures going forward. We don't have to put it in the budget today. We can put it in the budget later on as we go forward, just like we have every other year. But having some money in the account, we've done it once before. I don't know that we can do that out of REIT and stuff though. Unless we're positive we can use it for expenditures.
Yeah, if we're going to do that, I would recommend that you pull it out of general fund.
Yeah, that provides the most flexibility. Sure.
Does anybody have a number?
We can analyze that and come back and see what it might be. Okay. I'll get with Richard and Loretta on the side, and
or both water and sewer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, right now they're billed the same. They're the same entity, whether we want it to be or not.
Yeah, but they're accounted separately.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we done? We need to talk about Belfair and Beards Cove.
Beards Cove. Yeah. So Belfair and Beards Cove are a little different in that we can meet the affordability index and still have an increase. And shall I stop share here? Sorry, Jen, give it back to you.
Go back to the summary.
Yeah.
So before we do that, can we talk about the expenditure PLRs besides the rates we've got?
Right.
And
so we have
looked a little bit odd for Russellwood too. So I put those as a PLR because I wanted to make sure that they were the correct amounts and they were really expected, I guess. The PSNR.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the Puget Sound Nutrient Grant.
Okay, and there's a grant. It looked like 533,500 total, but on one budget, on the revised budget document that I received, it looked like maybe that amount was the 233,500 was. I couldn't tell if you were reducing the grant to that amount or if you were adding that amount into the total grant amount for 533,500. So I left it as a PLR because I'm assuming that you're not expecting that huge of a grant. It seemed a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it maybe a grant for 2 years? So the first year is 233.
That's what I'm wondering, if Richard spread that, right?
Was this the are you talking to
This is
533,500 total for the PSNR grant.
It's,
But you got on here, you got 82,950 for the PSNR grant.
Right.
And then you got another grant listed here for 233,500.
Right. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. I don't see it.
okay, so it's under Russellwood Water System, and in the preliminary budget, 300,000 was entered in under this grant. It's got a grant revenue code of 334, state grant. And so then it looks like there was another 233,500 entered on the budget document. I think I received it from Donnell, if I remember correctly. But I couldn't tell if you were reducing the ask to that amount or increasing it to the 533,500, and there wasn't any notes. And so I just put what revenue is this for? Is this really going to be 533,500?
That 300,000, I have absolutely zero idea where that even came from. So that shouldn't even be in there.
Okay.
Richard, this is what was expected to be received from the legislative appropriation, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're removing 300,000 out of that fund, they're already going to end in the negative. So I guess that answers my question on how much they're going to need.
How much? Yep.
They need, if we approve this PLR, they're going to need that amount, plus they're going to need roughly 35,000. So I would say 60 grand, or at least maybe 70 transfer in.
Then I would think 100, because you need to be able to have something there.
Some float, but yes.
100% agree. Yep.
That was my initial knee jerk, and I think it's the same thing we did 6-8 years ago.
Yeah. 60 has been typical.
Well, that's 62 is what we have budgeted coming in from REIT. So this is in addition, above and beyond.
Right. Right.
And that's to pay for the debt in that fund.
The 62, yes, pays for the debt. I just budget whatever the debt payment is.
Yep.
For Russell.
So this contribution from general fund of 100 would be above that 62, Loretta.
Mm-hmm. Yes, understood.
And then the beginning fund balance, I question that too, the 108,176, because when I calculate it, I have a zero ending fund balance for 23 for Russellwood. And so the 108,176 seems like a very specific, number. And I don't know if that's like what that entails, if there's anything actually there. Are we going to need 200,000, to transfer in from the general fund to keep them afloat? Which again is why I really hesitate to keep their rate at 0 because of their lack of cash.
We need to review that with you, Jen, how the calculation came about.
I could send it to you if you'd like.
I have the beginning fund balance estimate, but it's just a plugged number. So if you have anything more specific, that would be great.
I got the calculation sheet right here.
Okay.
I'll send that to you.
What else we got, guys?
See, so I think that's it. We covered that. Then Beards Cove next.
So for Beards Cove, that I have water meter installs 5,000 and capital projects 100,000. On the expenditure side.
And aren't we already installing? Don't we have quite a few of those already installed?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the water meters should be complete. We have one left.
Water meters are complete. Let's see, 5,000. Actually, I think I've requested 10,000. We've met with North Mason Fire. There's a few more fire hydrants that need
Hydrants,
to be.
yeah.
And then the 100,000, there's 6 isolation valves and associated piping where the very center of Beards Cove, where the two developments come together, right at Larson and Larson Lake, that intersection. You've probably gotten calls about. So yeah, in association, in concert with Rhodes, rebuild that whole intersection and replace the piping and the valves in that intersection so we can start working our way out from it and isolate.
That's another great project. I think we should have on our list for our legislators to have a discussion.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Mark, can you jot that down so that we can remember?
Absolutely.
I think we're actually touring them in Beards Cove on Friday.
We are.
Correct, yes.
Perfect opportunity.
Yep.
Yep.
Actually put together all of that for that tour. Not just Beards Cove, all of them.
Right. The bundle.
Okay, so we're moving 100,000 into maintenance for Beards Cove.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
And actually, that's ARPA funds.
Yeah, that's currently funded through ARPA.
Oh, good.
Oh.
That was an easy one then.
Okay, so we'll need to budget that transfer in from ARPA in there. Make sure I didn't. It's been so long since I looked at your detailed budget that I don't remember if I did it or not. No. Okay, so we'll make sure that that is transferred in. So you're going to expend it. So, okay.
And I'm still in the same place that I was before when it comes to the rates. I think we should, for the moment for budgeting, do 0 all the way down and then adjust as we need to during the year when we make our decisions. This way we're budgeting for less and we get more when we get it. Whoever's talking about barbecue chicken, that ain't fair.
Our doors are thin.
Yeah, somebody's out there.
I'm just glad I can't smell it.
And it really, I mean, if you decide, commissioners, not we, if you decide to increase the rates, and we have them at 0 in the budget, I mean, it's fine. Like, it doesn't have to match up exactly on the revenue.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. And if we did, but that can happen the very first time we are doing whatever adjustments we do, but we don't have to do an adjustment for it.
Did we decide on the 38,000 for Russellwood? What's happening with that? The inspect and clean reservoirs and replace 2 valves.
This is the issue of getting rid of the rust.
We have to do that there.
Yeah.
And this too is also, so this is revenue from the from Commerce.
Okay, so Commerce is already paying for that. So that's not
Right.
a PLR, that's just a money in, money out. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll put the 100,000, the 5,000 is not needed for the water installs, water meter installs, those are done.
But he said 10,000. Yeah, he said 10,000 for fire hydrants.
Correct, yes.
So that needs to change.
So from water meter to fire hydrant.
Yes.
So 110 total?
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to Belfair.